Hello and welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to PCS3 APAC. It's weekend number 2 already. We've got caster number 2 here as well. Edge replacing Alfish Guy for this weekend. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, not too bad. It's good to be back.
It's good to have you back, and obviously we're in the midst of PCS3 APAC. We haven't really seen you, I guess, since PCS2 APAC. Surprise, surprise, though, or in this case, no surprise. It's LG Divine who are still in first place.
Yeah, seeming like history repeating itself at the moment. They've got that big lead again, but it's all going to come down to, again, whether teams can bring it back and make it close.
Yeah, exactly right. Obviously, in PCS2, for those who didn't get to watch PCS2 APAC, it was a similar storyline that brewed throughout the first and second weekend. LG Divine were pretty much head and shoulders above everyone else in the lobby. And then it all just went wrong. It capitulated. They started dropping point after point after point. We saw the likes of Fury and Miramar really put the pressure on them. In the end, though, LG Divine held on literally by not even 1 point. They still got the win, though. It's about whether or not, Edge, does it happen all over again, or this time can LG Divine actually just run away with it?
Yeah, and I mean, that's what we're here to see. LG have been looking incredibly strong again. There's not really much faulting them at the moment. Their wins have been easy and pretty seamless. So
yeah,
whether they can just keep it up, who knows? Obviously,
they've got a lot of teams below them, to the point where I'm not even sure if I can really list them all, because we were speaking about it really off air in the pre-show for us. Miramar down to about Ferox, I reckon, are all still in the money in terms of being able to compete. Maybe not so much for first if you're in, say, the bottom 4, bottom 5 teams at the moment. You've got a lot of work to do. But it's a big logjam. A lot of these teams aren't that far off each other. If I go to, say, well, we'll just round it out, the 10th place teams, which are actually tied, Victim Rise, Hydra Gaming, 41 points apiece. They're only 21 points behind second. That's it. From second all the way down to 11th Edge. It is very much this logjam pack here for PCS3 APAC, besides everyone and besides LG Divine and everyone, I guess, in the bottom 2.
And even past that, it goes all the way down to the likes of your Ferox, where they're 33 points, but that's only another 10 points on top of like your top 10. So we're at a good point. It's still anyone's game, and anyone can can have a little bit of luck and get that win and bring it back.
Well, here's a bit of a recap and a bit of a preview in terms of the map information, the overview. As you can see from last weekend, all LG Divine. Incredible. No, that's not a mistake. They ended up winning 5 out of 8 matches. And obviously at one point, as you saw, winning 3 in a row, unprecedented in APAC so far in 2020. They've been the first team to be able to do that. Of course, what they're playing for, the prize pool, $200,000 plus 12.5% of all in-game sales. Make sure you go and get your pick'ems, especially by the end of this weekend. I think we'll definitely know a lot more about who's going to be winning PCS3 APAC. If LG Divine further increase their lead, I think they'd be a very safe bet.
Absolutely. And I think with the pick'ems as well, having a team like LG Divine take it away so early is probably a bad thing for most people if they're looking for resale and whatnot. So, you want a bit of competition. You want a little bit more on the line, and hopefully these other teams can really show LG that they've got the talent as well.
Yeah, there's a few of those teams, though, I think that are obviously going to be looking to keep that pressure alive, not only tonight, but of course tomorrow night as well. We've got 8 games this weekend, and then another 8 games next weekend. So plenty of games still remaining, 16 in total for you quick math people out there. In terms of the teams that's going to, I guess, be able to keep the pressure the most, as we can see the total leaderboard on your screens, Miramar United Esports, no surprise there. They've been constantly second or third throughout 2020. Fury, a big factor there is that, of course, they came home strong in PCS2. Slow starters, but then they get the job done. And Cerberus Esports, we spoke about them in off air in our little meeting, and basically the gist of it was Sololzi has come in and been a huge find to help alleviate some of the pressure off Haisaki. They finished second with 6 kills in the closing match last weekend. It gets them up into the top 4, gets them into the conversation, and maybe for the first time in 2020 realizing their potential at this level, Edge.
Yeah, Cerberus has always been one of those teams where we've come into the tournament, we've been like, Cerberus, they look good, they look strong, we feel like they're going to be a top 3 position, but they just haven't shown us anything. But since adding Sololzi, they've put up their numbers on the paper, so it's been great to see, honestly.
Speaking of numbers on the paper, I mean, and speaking of Cerberus, Haisaki, 3,000 damage so far, unmatched in terms of hitting the 3,000 threshold. So again, even with Sololzi coming in and alleviating some of that pressure, it's still very much this man. And going back, I believe it was PCS2 APAC, where of course halfway through, Haisaki unfortunately had to pull out due to those personal circumstances. And as soon as he went out of that roster, they plummeted really, really quickly. In terms of the kills, though, it's Tom K. I mentioned his name to you earlier, Edge, for good reason. 19 kills. The man is single-handedly the reason why Magic Esports are in the top 5 at the moment.
Yeah, and Magic Esports last PCS didn't have the best showing either. They finished on the bottom half, if I remember correctly. So it's definitely nice to see them coming back out and putting some frags out there. Still potentially have their contest on Pachinki against Ferox. So that'll be interesting for our first Erangel game.
Saw another man there as well who was in second, Jun from LG Divine, obviously new player from PCS2 coming on in and has had an amazing impact for our leaderboard leaders at the moment, really. As we sort of head into tonight, though, we'll, I guess, stop with the recapping and now we'll look towards the future here. 4 games. We're going to kickstart it with, of course, 2 matches on Erangel. What's something that you'd like to see from at least just these Erangel matches, Edge? Is it certain teams that have maybe struggled on the map so far compared to, say, Miramar? Is it about what's LG Divine going to do, or potentially their competitors?
Well, if I remember correctly, last weekend started with Miramar, and that's where LG Divine got 4 of their wins. So they won every Miramar.
Yeah.
So Erangel should be a good place for teams to pick up some points. We have seen contests like Magic and Ferox contesting in Pachinki. So if they keep contesting, that could hinder Magic Esports, could hinder Ferox as well. But I really think Erangel's going to be one for the taking. But even so, LG Divine has still got to win on Erangel. So
that's true.
Can never tell.
You can never really tell with LG Divine. But in terms of some of the other teams that I'd like to see perk up a little bit, one of them is Angel Alliance. They had a fairy tale start on the first weekend, more so I guess on the first day than anything, and those games in the end they actually did better more so on Miramar than they did on Erangel, and that's kind of what I want to see from them, from the Philippines team, is can they bring some of that Miramar form, I don't know why I said farm, over towards Erangel, because if they can do that, right now they're sitting in 7th position. I think if they can do that, maybe even top 5 could be beckoning for them. They've been really, really good to watch so far over that first weekend. Will they be able to continue that form? That's been the question sort of posed towards them. We'll see if they can answer that, at least here on Erangel. They've been good on Miramar, so we kind of already have that information. Another team, in fact, I'll say 2 teams here that I want to keep my eye on is Division X and Bay. Division X Gaming, first weekend, Edge started brilliantly. They were top 5. Everything was going great. Former PCS winner. And then it all just stopped. And they've started to plummet. They're down into 8th position. And for Bay, it was the complete opposite. They were down the bottom for the first day. Then they had a great second day, turned it around. They're in 9th. You've got 2 teams that were on either end of the leaderboard that are now met together in the middle. Do they continue that transition? Does Bay keep going up, or does Division X keep going down? Regardless, we're going to find out right now as we kickstart weekend number 2, PCS3 APAC, match 9 of 24. We start with Erangel. Of course, we will be playing 2 matches of Erangel, then 2 matches of Miramar for this weekend. That will be the structure. And now we get to see how this is going to play out, because so far, Edge, over the first weekend, I gotta say, I just had PTSD flashbacks of PCS2. I will find out if that's going to continue here for weekend number 2.
Yeah, PCS2 looked like it was going to be all over at the halfway point, but as we saw, it did come back very, very close in that last game. So it turned from something of potentially being a boring ender to being extremely exciting. So hopefully we can get the same this time around, maybe a bit earlier on in the pacing. But time will tell. It does look like our contest between Ferox and Magic has ended, so that's a good sign for both teams.
Don't you hate it when you lose the parachute battle for the vehicle? Magic Esports Sulabi going to win that one against Victim Rise, and now has to make the awkward run away. I believe it's Samoy from what I can see. Now, typically in this sort of situation, it's probably not worth the time to try and get this because it's very easy. If you're a professional Edge, you know how to duck and weave and get away from these vehicles, and obviously help has arrived already.
It is still very difficult to avoid quite a large and fast-moving vehicle, but if you've got that car, there's a potential free point on the board, and with how close it is at the moment, like every point matters. So I'd be going for that point anyway.
Yeah, you give it a little shot, but sometimes, and this is more so what I'm talking about, where you actually just see guys going for like a good minute or two, ring around the rosy, and at that point, I'm not sure if it's worth it. Sometimes you have a crack, doesn't work out, move on. Regardless, interesting, you did bring it up, obviously, that hot drop. We saw that in weekend one, Ferox and Magic Esports. It seems as if Ferox, somewhere along the lines, I guess, have been victorious, which is surprising because Magic Esports did actually get a wipe on Ferox in Pachinki on the first weekend. Maybe the scrims have, I guess, changed that result. Regardless, they'll go towards Watertown and Ruin, so Magic Esports actually aren't that far away from Ferox in the end, and I guess we'll keep an eye on it, see if it stays that way throughout this weekend, I guess, because there's not that many Erangel games anyway. Our circle, though, Edge, over towards the Gatka Fields. We haven't really had much Gatka Fields on weekend number one. Very much out towards the far west side. I don't think we're going to get any sort of paper-thin crazy circles from this one.
You'd hope not, especially on this circle. Definitely not. But it is nice to see, especially with Erangel 2.0, you've got a lot more variety around the quarry area, a bit more playability. So it's always nice to have a little bit of a change. And PUBG, especially with the land ratio circles, it's always it can get a little bit stale sometimes. So just changing it up, making it a little bit exciting. The players, I know they appreciate something different, something new as well, and definitely so do the spectators.
Kill proportion per teams, Miramar United so far with the most kills, 42. Every point counts and every point certainly matters. Edie with 36% of the kills for Miramar. It was brought up at one point that obviously Jalman is on this roster now, but I don't know who you take out. Nordra, Godmeow, Edie, Canaxi. I don't know how Jalman gets into this sort of four-man roster, but it's at least nice to know one of your backups is a very star player and an exceptional player for Miramar in the wings.
If you've got good chemistry and the player's not slumping in the frags department, why change it? It's all I mean, having a backup like someone like German is just only bolstering your team.
Speaking about Miramar, I know they're not on our screen anymore, but with this sort of circle, I don't know how much of the edge play they're going to get. Typically, they do like to play it around the edge of the circle, sweeping around, coming in late, taking fights late. This time, though, obviously Gatka, it's pretty wide, it's pretty open. They are going to be central, though. They're not going to be able to sweep the circle unless, of course, Phase 2, Phase 3 shifts away from them. I don't know if they guess that is something that's a bit of a hindrance to them, but I guess realistically, if you're a team that does like to play edge of circle, when you do get a center circle, you can't be too disappointed, right? Because you are basically getting fed.
Yeah, that's right. It's just you're just going to have to adapt and play a little bit of a different play style. If you've got the feed, there's no reason not to take it. If you're someone like Miramar, you can potentially play it a little bit more adventurous, as I believe they do have a 1-1-1-1 split at the moment. So, they've got a lot of control, and if they don't get breached, they're probably going to have a pretty good time, I'd say.
See Ferox on our screen, who did not have a good time on day number one. Had a great time on day number two, though. 29 points gained on day two, Edge. Crazy. I mean, if they had that 2 days in a row, they would have been sitting in the top 5. So that's kind of crazy to think about. Unfortunately, they only gained 4 points, though, on day one. Great turnaround, and I guess maybe the expectations have risen a little bit here for weekend number 2 for Team Ferox, and if they can continue that good form.
Yeah, and I think having that good second day is actually a really good thing for Ferox, because it basically just gives them that confidence that they know that they can actually put up numbers against these teams. They know that they're definitely capable. So if they've got the confidence, they know how to play, they know what they need to do, then they can potentially keep on putting out the consistency throughout the rest of the tournament.
Very high northern rotation here for Fury, close by to Hydra Gaming. The team currently in 11th position, 41 points. Middle of the pack, which is not so bad, I guess, for Hydra Gaming. Their first outing for PCS in 2020, and they've been pretty good. In a way, I don't sense that they're going to be a team challenging for first, second, or third, but they could eventually net themselves a top 10 placing, which is always a pretty decent achievement at this sort of level, especially in your first time at PCS.
Yeah, for first timers, I'd definitely be going for anything in the top 10. Would be an outstanding kind of result. I mean, all the teams here would be confident that they can put up the numbers against everyone else, but it's always a completely different like battleground when you come out here and you're competing against them. There's a lot of things you don't know, and a lot of things you'll actually learn from just playing against all the different regions together.
From the future, for those, I guess, maybe unaware, they have got a completely new lineup, but it is, of course, under the same banner that we've seen in previous PCS events. Mipin Zuzu, Gypsy Danger, Hexagon, and well, I'm just going with Triple X at this point. Jordan decided to go with 11165. I'm not sure if that's too easy to say. Whichever one you like, Edge, go for it, free reign. Fury, though, are going to start setting it up towards Everest, and I don't mind it here for this first circle. They can get some good Overwatch. They can sit here for the next minute, 10 seconds if they want, see what happens for phase number 2. They know they're getting in late, so they know pretty much most of the real estate in Gatka is already going to be taken.
Yeah, that's right. I would just like to add on that old mate Triple X does look a bit like Vin Diesel, so I think the name is very fitting, but Fury does have quite a nice spot on top of Everest here. If they can keep everyone else away from it, they've got a lot of distance that they can see. They can scout out their next rotations, and they can get lovely spots moving forward in the game.
Battle Arena Elites. Spoke about them in the pre-show. Bit of a slow start, but they, kind of like Ferox and a few others, have been able to find some new form. Even more so than Ferox, obviously they're on 10 extra points. Sitting in 9th at the moment, they are now in the top 10 for a team that, of course, achieved great things in PCS2. It wasn't the start they were looking for, but they picked up the pace, and while they're only 16 points behind Cerberus and Fury for that third spot coming into this weekend, I think the goal for them, I'm going to give them a big one, is to get back in the top 5.
It's definitely doable as well. Like,
yeah.
What, you've got 12 points away? You know, 1 game, 2 kills. Coming second with 6 kills, definitely doable for Bay. And Bay's had a lot of success on their Erangel previously. When they get that space, they can do a lot of work with it. But they had been throwing away a couple of their games trying to third-party fights earlier last weekend.
Current fight happening here, Victim Rise versus Division X Gaming, which Samoy's already been knocked down. He's out in the fields as well, so he's not really in a good position to be able to get revived. They could elect to try and throw some smokes to get to that position, but I think they're in a bit of trouble here. Division X Gaming have got a great position up on this hill. They can really look right down to Victim Rise, making it very difficult for them to push out of these warehouses, and if they go for the save, it could end up being a lot worse than it already is, where they can leave Samoy, get in their vehicles, and start heading down south, because that's where the next circle has moved here for phase number 2, more towards the Gatka fields and certainly away from South George.
Yeah, the problem for all these teams that are stuck in South George is the longer they wait, the harder it is to get into this circle. If you look at the mini-map now, or the map, you can see that every team is sort of already finding their spots. And for teams like Division X or VTR, they're literally just going to get stuck out on the edge. They'll probably be continuing their fight, and then as the game progresses, they might just get more and more stuck, not finding any sort of ground to play with.
LG Divine just terrorizing this lobby so far over the first weekend, but right now all they're doing is terrorizing this wheat field, going around in circles, and a lot of teams around LG Divine's position as well. So they start to push onto this compound. 2 hands of Unicorn Cyber in here as well. And he's got a lot to deal with very quickly. J-Hand will just rush in. Best 1301 also going to be eliminated by John. And LG Divine just make their presence known here in the Gatka fields. They came in late. They weren't really in a good position for phase 1, but they've pushed hard here for phase 2, and they're going to get rewarded. 3 kills and a good position, and this is what makes them such a strong team. They set their mind to something. They're happy to breach a compound, whereas potentially a lot of other teams in this lobby edge wouldn't have made this play. They would have gone more for the edge, expecting that the middle would have been unwinnable. And LG Divine are certainly a team that can win the unwinnable, annihilating Unicorn Cyber, the team in dead last.
Second phase isn't generally a phase that you go for that early breach on. You want to try and generally get a compound that's free, that's non-occupied, but Divine are obviously playing with a lot of confidence right now, so they're willing to make these risks. They know they've got the talent on their team. They've had a little bit of a roster change, and I'm guessing they're even more confident than they were previously.
That's a scary, scary thought if they are more confident than they were in PCS2, because, well, they haven't really changed their play style up too much, I guess, since then, but definitely reinvigorated with Jun coming into the lineup. And even they would be aware that despite the fact that they won PCS2 APAC, they didn't probably win it in the style they would have wanted to win it, especially with how much they were leading the lobby at certain points, 60, almost 70 points around the halfway mark of PCS2 APAC. Only for that to all come crumbling down and winning on a tiebreaker. 33-point, though, that is now the lead for LG Divine after getting those 4 kills, and they are very, very close to already breaking triple digits, as we are also very close now to phase number 3. And it does benefit Buriram United, who have a 2-2 split. There was someone, it's Canaxi, who was driving towards God Meow. Now he's just done a quick little U-turn, going straight back, because that's the compound you're going to want to stay at with Nordra. In fact, I think Edie and God Meow are going to get the call over. They're going to take that 2-2 split away, bring them on over. I don't mind it, considering I think that God Meow's current position edge is probably going to be quite vulnerable to those teams out west, and they're going to want to breach onto something.
Absolutely, and it looks like Fury now is going to have to be very careful as Division X coming in extremely close to him. It looks like they're going for the breach onto the compound. Fury with the 2-2 split and actually losing insight straight away from Canaxi from afar is not good. But Fury's Waikiki and Ronan come in and pick up 2 for themselves. Division X gets 1 onto Ronan, and it's Waikiki trying to pick up the pieces now. So Flood's got a lot of work to do for himself, being the lone survivor left in this building, and he's taken out by the molly.
Wow.
So this isn't how Fury envisioned their split going.
How many times have we seen Flood being able to win these 1v2s quite comfortably? Isn't able to win at that time. Waikiki Kabukau definitely providing a decent amount of cover from this Wizzy Tower. He did actually pick up a kill, but not enough. They did get 2 members of Division X, so Fergus and IQ 500, they stay alive. In the end, though, I mean, they haven't really been able to get a great position either. This is a very north compound for these 2 members of Division X, and they are down to 2 players. So while they get some short-term game, I don't know about their long-term game.
Yeah, their next move could potentially just be to rebreach Fury on the hill. Insight looks like he might not be long for this world anymore, as he does get taken down by Edie, and it's all left up to Waikiki Mukau. He does have the wizard hut to himself, but I don't really know what he can do if someone tries to push towards him.
Moving on as we watch Purple Mood Esport now out in the west. They're not quite in the circle just yet, and pretty much gatekeeping them is going to be Magic Esport. Sharper making their push as well, and they're going directly beeline towards Waikiki Mukau. He might be able to get 1 or 2 at best. Doesn't quite get the initial one, though, and that's really what he needed. Unfortunately for Waikiki Mukau, cops are back to the base, and for Fury, they go out in second last place here to start the night. Not ideal for one of the favored teams to be able to catch up to LG Divine.
That was one of the most perfect bike bails I've ever seen. He knocked himself in the process, but he did get the kill onto Waikiki Mukau. So that's a pretty flawless fight, if you ask me. Purple Mood do move into this compound. It is a pretty high-tier compound. It's got a lot of space. You get a lot of vision, and can see what you need for the next zone. So they're in a decent spot. Magic don't have any kills yet, so slow start for them. But our next circle will be coming out very, very shortly.
Phase number 4, and it goes right on top of LG Divine. Not a surprise to see that. This is one of those circles, though, where, you know, for phase 4, it's not so much really it's a feed on LG Divine, but they worked to get to that position. Miramar obviously in a good spot. Purple Mood, who took the old compound of the 2-2 split of Miramar, and Sharper Esports at that Wizzy Tower. I think that's a really good position too, because it's on that hill, quite elevated. They are going to have to deal with Hydra Gaming, Magic Esports, Division X, those teams towards the north that will come in. But I think if Sharper Esports can keep their 3 remaining players alive towards the end, hold that Wizzy Tower by the end of phase 4, they'll be in a really good position as Bryn's knocked down by Edie. Monty Rain, Sweet Soul still alive here for Team Ferox. Code on your screen as well for the Pick'em Challenge. Get involved in game. Win some sweet skins as Kim Siva will eliminate Bryn. Monty's knocked down too by Kanaxi. This is not the fight maybe Ferox want to take. It's their fight spray though from Sweet Soul that was successful, but immediately retraded. Rain with the one and only nade, unfortunately, has just watched as he has lost 3 of his teammates. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to survive for much longer. And right now, game 1 for the Oceanic teams has gone disastrously wrong.
Yeah, it definitely hasn't been a good start. And it looks like Rain will be quite soon flushed out of the game. So Ferox needing those points, not able to get it at the moment, but there is still 3 more games on the table after this. We do have Buram with probably one of the strongest positions now if they can continue to hold it against the likes of VTR, who is sort of on the outskirts of their compound at the moment. They do need to finish up Rain quite quickly so they don't have any other issues coming out after this, but they should have a pretty decent spot being able to use that hill as well next up. But Kim actually picks that one up from the Wizard Tower.
Good sight. Good kill for Sharper Esports. They send Ferox packing. We mentioned it before. It was a great turnaround on day number 2 for Ferox. For their sake, hopefully it's not a day 2 only affair for them and that they can potentially get some points here on day 1 as well. Victor Ryan's down to 2 players as well, and we sort of caught a little bit of this at the start against Division X Gaming. They did end up losing Samoy, who we saw originally down. I'm not sure exactly how Gemforce got killed, but he did get downed in that situation with the warehouses way earlier on. Chibrit now, the last one is Kamals, is eliminated by Kanaxi, who has just turned around, bailed away from this position. There goes the 2 players of Division X as Loki's done spot Chibrit. And Victim Rise, like the 2 Oceanic teams, not too crash hot at the moment for match number 1 of the night. If you've just tuned in, 3 games to go after this as we are back for day 3 of PCS3 APAC. Match 9 of 24 in total. And I'm not sure Chibrit's going to be able to do too much from this position. At best, I think he gets 1.
I think he'd be very lucky to get 1 because from what I've seen so far, Buram's popping off. To put it quite simply, they're hitting a lot of shots. They wiped out Division X in the same time that they were fighting VTR and Ferox, so they've been picking up kills left, right, and center, and this is going to be really good for them. Wanting to catch up to LG Divine, they need to get as many kill points as they can, and try and convert some of these games as well. And that circle will definitely help them do so. They still keep majority of their compound in the zone. They can move up onto the hill late, and then they can take some control and potentially pick up that glorious chicken dinner.
Great circle, though, for Bay. When you look at their position on this hill, south side of the circle, they can clean up Day Trade and Angel Alliance. They've got info on those 2 teams as well. They can make sure that a team like LG Divine can't necessarily go south and wrap onto them. If they do that, LG Divine's basically just going into the war zone of Angel Alliance and Day Trade. I think Bay's the sleeper pick here for this game. Sharper Esports really on the other side have, of course, still got that elevation as well, still in on that Wizzy Tower, so they can buy some more time. The problem will be more so around phases 6 or 7 coming down from that position. They will probably be quite vulnerable and spotted quite easily, and they're still going to deal with Hydra Gaming as well. As from the future make the push towards the shack of Cerberus. They've got the 3 members here, 2-1 split. They've got 1 on the other side of the road here at the USZ. That's Sololzi. He's going to have 2 right in front of him. Gypsy Danger, almost a bit of a team run over there. Mipin Zuzu is going to be able to pick up the kill, though, from the future. They're on the board. They do have to still deal with 2 players, though, in that shack across the road, as they also have to keep an eye here on Magic Esports. So quite a bit of teams now congregating towards this position here for phase number 5, all just south of this small hill where Sharper Esports find themselves. You've got Cerberus on the other side. And it's a war zone and the smokes are out. As Hexagon leading the front. Triple X going for the revive on the Mip and Zuzu.
Yeah, it's definitely not a good fight for either teams at the moment. They did get themselves a little bit of position, but from where they are, a lot of teams can see them. And we do see Purple Mood starting to push in on the back and getting that nade right in close, picking up Salubi and Velax. So really well done there from Rocky Gyms with a good use of utility.
Pucci is eliminated by Sophia. They have basically just done what I thought they would do around that south side of the circle. They've been able to clean up Day Trade and Angel Alliance. Day Trade's still alive, but quite wounded. LG Divine actually pushing on to that. So we can see sort of from Bay's point of view, but on the complete other side of it, LG Divine sent Levi's and Jay in to sort of sandwich and pincer as well. So like I said before, Day Trade, Angel Alliance, meat and the sandwich, unfortunately, but Bay really in a great position now to lock down this south side of the circle. Very high elevated terrain as well. All 4 players still alive. They've got 5 kills. Perfect start here for day number 3.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. And this is how Bay thrives. They get that space and they can just push on to whoever they want, whenever they want, pick up kills, and then move further into the zone. And this zone is definitely going to favor them as they have realistically the only sort of playable area, which is the top of the hill. They just need to keep Bururam away.
Big nade from Basil onto Gypsy Danger. They got rid of Hexagon. He was the front line for From the Future. And since that moment, the rest of From the Future have just started to fall by the wayside. It's only Mip and Zuzu left inside of the smoke. And unfortunately for From the Future, the position they put themselves in was quite a difficult one for them to get themselves out of here on this road. Credit to Purple Mood, who have been able to do quite well at dealing with them and from behind. Tonight, we'll be able to eliminate Mip and Zuzu. Subang and Basil going to go down to the Molotov of Maxidus and Sharper Esport. Great start as well here for them. 8 kills now, even without 6 sacks. So it's a 3-man squad doing a really decent effort here. Match number 1 of the night, but this is where LG Divine do their best, do their worst to the rest of the lobby, because they can now start to find kills, push out. They've got plenty of utility. They haven't really been in too many fights. They can now push out quite freely, look to third party, the likes of Sharper Esport, Hydra Gaming, Purple Mood. If they do that though, they do, I guess, keep their south side quite vulnerable to Bay. We'll see how it plays out from here. They might go more so for position, but this spot right here on your screen, if they stay around here, Bay will have the higher elevated position from the south side and should be able to look down. And it's Mickey who does get the knock onto Namc. Jun knocked by Sophia. There you go. From the south side, they get involved, and I don't think LG Divine were prepared for it.
It definitely didn't look like it.
Oh,
but
Levi's.
then Divine Levi's picks up the entire squad with the nades. So Divine getting themselves out of a really precarious position to pick themselves up even more points and getting into the triple digits now as well.
3K nade from Levi's for LG Divine. That gets them to 102 points. They've cracked triple digits already after 9 games played. They also get the revive onto Namc. They lost 1. They lost Jun, but they've got 3 alive here. The only teams that have got all 4 up, Battle Arena Elites and Purple Mood. Bay with 7 kills, 5 of them to Sophia, who seemingly found some of his old form here for PCS3 APAC. Still, a lot of the battles up north, Maximus inside of these smokes, or at least in between the 2 smokes that are plumed. 1 in front of him, 1 behind him. He's got no teammates though. He's got 4 enemies in front. He has no frag grenades though to try and get 1 or 2 all at once. Decent spray inside of the smoke. Does catch Los Santos. Needs 3 more. Fortunately, doesn't have anyone pressing down on him from behind. He gets Boss Sense too. That's 2 down, 2 to go. But Maximus still just spraying into the smoke, and he's been pinned. Point perfect so far. Circle goes south, but it's Rocky Gems who does push out, does get the frag, and does eliminate Sharper, but not before Namc throws a nade from quite a far distance that does get the knock on a Rocky Gems, eliminates Boss Sense, stealing that kill away, as Bay now push on to Bururam United.
Absolutely beautiful play there from LG Divine, but Bay sneaking up closer. Sophia not wanting to take that fight by himself just yet, as his teammates are a little bit far away. Bururam definitely not the kind of squad that you'll come in comfortably trying to 1v3, but Sophia picks up the beautiful nade onto Edie and the Molotov to potentially flush that out as well. So this might be a really good opener for Sophia to just just pick up his pants and run it in.
Oh man, what a stick to get that save. I think Bay will obviously be aware of this, that the revive has taken place. No more nades either for Sophia. You can question the fact as to why you wouldn't push that, but I think it's a smart play in the end. They've got the better ground position, a little bit more elevated than Miramar United. And you can see Jukesy and Hall from the back don't want to give up that top of the hill to a team like LG Divine, and they can of course see quite a lot from there. The seat spot from Rocky Jim's unsuccessful, and MC just going to be gifted another couple of kills. Levi's as well in the kill feed. It's 11 kills or so now for LG Divine. What a game here for match number 1. Miramar United, I'm not sure what they've just sent it into. It's hell basically on earth for them as they went from one fight to another. And this one, all they've done is just feed the points over to the team they're trying to catch. They moved away from Bay, over to LG Divine. 14 kills, a slaughter fest. But can they get the chicken dinner from this position? I don't know. And then Loki's gets the knockdown onto Levi's as well. Sophia in hot red form gets the knockdown onto J-End. Namc in a 1 versus 4 down at the bottom of the hill. I think Battle Arena Elite are going to pick up their first chicken dinner of PCS3 APAC from here.
Yeah, it's looking really good for Bay at the moment, and Sophia will pick up that last kill onto Namc. So absolutely ripper of a game from Bay there. But I'm so surprised at just how many teams last minute play just had to send it into Divine. They just picked up so many free kills there in the end.
They certainly did. 14 kills in the end for LG Divine to go with their second place. 20 points gained. 20. Incredible. Not as many as Bay. They certainly topped the table here with match number 1 of the night. And speaking of top of the table, they're in the top 3 now on the leaderboard, rocketing up 64 points. That's why we mentioned before, Edge, that it was a logjam in the middle of the leaderboard, and it wouldn't take much to see a team rise from, say, 10th to 3rd, for instance. In this case, it was Bay. I gave them the challenge at the start of the day. I said, get into the top 5 by the end of the weekend. Oh, they've done that in 1 game.
Yeah, they were saying on Twitter as well that they thought they should have been in that top 3 position, so they're obviously working towards solidifying that at the moment, and they're looking really good. But this has been their Erangel story the entire time, is do well on Erangel, not so great on Miramar, but they could be a new team this weekend.
Yeah, it's, well, it was a new team on day number 2 already for Bay. So day number 3 is just sort of keeping the course, I guess. What an aid from Levi's. We do at least get to see it here in the replay. LG Divine, though, hats off to them. They are just on a different level here for PCS3 APAC. It's just a matter of how long they can keep this up before potentially they do fade away like they did in PCS2 APAC. That's what we'll be keeping an eye on for them. But Bay certainly deserving the winner chicken dinner in the end here for match 1 this evening. Of course, we've got 3 more games to go, Edge, but what a start for LG Divine. What a start for Bay. 2 different storylines, I guess. Obviously, one is all about the team leading the way here for PCS3 APAC, and the other one's for a team that did very, very well in PCS2 APAC, had a slow start here in PCS3, and now they've rocketed up into 3rd. What a turnaround.
Yeah, they've done absolute work at the moment, and even teams like Sharper were in a pretty rough position, and they worked it out, and they got themselves into a position where they could pick up a heap of kills. Purple Mood, they were sort of lower on the scoreboard, but they did a lot of work as well. So these teams are definitely seeing how close it is between everyone, and they're all still putting in 100% right now, and so they should be.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, you know, when we look at the leaderboard now, it's a bit daunting for, I guess, the teams in the bottom 4, because that as each game sort of plays out now, that so-called logjam will start to separate a little bit more than it really did over the first 8 games. As we get into more and more games, it's not going to be as easy to sort of shoot up the rankings as quick as, say, Bay just did. But they haven't really gained much separation. They're in 3rd, but realistically, you got Sharper Esports, who also made a massive jump. You can see here in the match leaderboard, they picked up 11 points respectively. That gets them into 4th now. That's put Fury down to 5th. Cerberus are out of the top 5 in 6th on 61, 61, 62, 64 points. That's 3rd to 6th. So pretty much nothing in it. But it just goes to show that there's a bit of a separation now forming from, say, the top 6, and then Magic Esport about 6 points behind, and there's another big gap. So from 8th to 6th now is like 13 points, whereas before 8th to 2nd was about 13 points.
Yeah, now's definitely the time if you're one of these bottom half teams, definitely the time to pull your finger out. You don't want to get left behind. You don't want to make it more difficult than it needs to be
Yeah.
because Divine is increasing their lead. They're almost 40 points now. Buram and Fury have done it before. They know they can do it again. If you're on that bottom half, you really just need to try and make it competitive and try and get yourself into that top 8.
Placement points alone for LG Divine would put them in 7th place if they had 0 kills and 56 placement points. That's incredible. Of course, they've had 5 wins. In fact, interesting stat, Edge, the first placement points achieved for LG Divine, that wasn't a win, because all they had done in the first 8 games was either win or not get into the top 8 in terms of placement points. Of course, they've been picking up a hefty amount of kills along the way, even in those games where they didn't get placement points. But they continued to increase their gap, though, now almost out to 40 points already. But it's a similar story. Like, we almost don't want to get too excited because we've seen this before in PCS3 APAC. It's not too difficult for teams like Buram, Bay, Fury, Sharper to make the climb, to make the comeback, keep putting that pressure on. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we have got, of course, our second and then I guess final game of Erangel for the night. Battle Arena Elites have come to play here for weekend 2 of PCS3 APAC. They get the chicken dinner for match number 1 on Erangel, and coming up very shortly, we do head to Erangel once again for the final time tonight. Edge, though, a team that again was very close to getting a win, and they've already had quite a few. LG Divine, 20 points in total. The lead, almost 40 points. That's the storyline that continues to take place here for PCS3 APAC.
Yeah, I think honestly, Divine's starting to look a lot more scary this PCS than they did last.
Yep.
You know, they had their good games, they had their bad games. Just looking like they're finding good games out of everything so far. So it's going to be scary for all the teams.
That was the most kills that they've had in a match so far for all of PCS3 APAC, 9 games in, 14 there from LG Divine. For Bay, though, of course, I mean, we definitely want to shine a light on them, and in this case, it's a pretty big spotlight. All things considered, they started very, very slow over on the first weekend. After that first day, though, they had a third, a 6th, an 8th, and now a 1st. So they've certainly picked up the tempo, and if we were to just sort of base really this entire lobby from round 5 to round 9, they'd be sitting in 2nd place right now over Miramar United. So what a turnaround from them. They're looking sharp, they're looking good. I think Sophia is probably back at his best form that he's been in probably since he joined Bay.
Yeah, that's right. Sophia looks like he's just playing his own style, which is what he used to do. He used to run around by himself and just pick up kills left, right, and center. If Sophia's back in that form, it's pretty good for Bay, honestly.
And of course, a controversial teammate swap, I guess, was what happened between Bay and Fury. Flood, Jukesy, how have you seen it? I know we're not quite 10 games in, but what about 9 games in now? How have you seen that little swap?
I think both parties probably benefited. I think both players have had a different play style. Flood plays more of a sort of an anchor sort of role for Fury, where he can just sit back and shoot at everyone. Jukesy really likes to be in everyone's face and very aggressive. So I think, and that's what Bay likes, that's what Fury likes. So I think it's really worked out in favor of both teams.
Well, as we head into match number 2 of the night to round out my triple treat of teams I wanted to touch on, Sharper Esports, they're into the top 4, and over the last couple of games, this is their last 4 games, Edge. 8th with 7 kills, 16th with 1 kill, that one's not really going to plan there, but then 7th with 8 kills and 5th with 8 kills just then in our previous match. They've been finding kills, they're getting some placement points, they're into 4th place now, only 2 points behind Battle Arena Elites, and they're looking like Golden Cat of old, more so, I guess, than anything. Tanoi, 6 sacks, Maximus, Kim Siv has been a huge pickup for them as well, and overall, they're doing Sharper Esports proud.
Yeah, they're doing a pretty solid job, honestly. Like, coming from that Golden Cat, incredibly strong as well, and being back in form. So I'd like to honestly see them around the top 5 position, but with how close it is now, it's, you know, it could be anyone's.
So match number 2 coming up very shortly. The rankings on Erangel still favoring Buran, but LG Divine not too far behind, 46 points. Going back to the first weekend, or at least I think it was actually by the 3rd match of Erangel, because LG Divine's first 2 games on Erangel weren't that great. Their rankings per map on Erangel were horrific. But since that first 2 games on Erangel, they've been able to get a win, 9 points, and now 2nd with 14 points, and there was a 12th with 1st point. So a huge, substantial turnaround for LG Divine, where, you know, myself and Elfish Guy posed the question last week, is it a Miramar only team, or are they going to be able to do it on Erangel? Obviously, they got the win there. Now they've got a 2nd place and 14 kills. They can do it on both maps. They can do it anywhere, anytime. Fed, not fed. They've got really the whole package, LG Divine. They're going to be tough to beat. Not great, not fun here for Unicorn Cyber. Not only are they dead last, but 2-1 has unfortunately collided with some trees. We do get our phase 1 circle, which is going to be substantially different to match number 1. We head up towards more so Stalber and Yasnaya. These sort of circles for phase 1, always fascinating as to where they're going to go. If it comes south, then the Roshok River and the Yazzie Pond are obviously going to be big factors. If it continues to go more so towards Stalber, well, obviously that has its own fun little play out.
What in the world is Best doing out here all by himself? He's very separated from his team at the moment, and Twans is still knocked out, so it looks like they are going to be sending a teammate over to pick him up, but not a very good start for Unicorn Cyber. And, you know, being on 8 points, you kind of need a bit of a, well, you need a bit of a boot to get up there, I think.
Yeah, it's not been good. Unfortunately, they haven't really been able to keep up with the rest of the lobby, just the 8 points. And things like this definitely don't bode too well for them either. Like, sometimes it could just be a bad tournament. Do need to see, I guess, more of them. I guess more so this weekend and next weekend. But turn attention to Purple Mood Esport. They were second last going into this, but they had a tremendous game one edge, and now they've actually gone up past Ferox. So really, when you look at that leaderboard, minus Unicorn, it's a pretty stacked lobby. Obviously, you've got LG Divine soaking up a lot of the points, but from Ferox up, it's still pretty close.
Yeah, if you took LG Divine and Unicorn Cyber out of the lobby, you'd have a real sort of tournament on your hands. It's obviously looking like a bit of a runaway at the moment for Divine, so it's just gonna show how close the rest of the lobby really is. Like, anyone can have even an average game with a couple of kills and put themselves over the person in front of them. It's very minimal points between everyone.
Battle Arena Elites just looting around in Milta. Third at the moment for their rank on the leaderboard, averaging 7.6 points on Erangel, couple of kills as well. After picking up their first chicken dinner. Juxie's been good. Sophia's been amazing. Loki's and Nephahor, as usual, rock solid.
Yeah, everyone's been having a really, really good tournament so far from Bay. Really pulling their weight at the moment. And, you know, it's like realistically their sort of second season together. For the PCS, they do have Juxie in as a new player, but it's really looking like they're building a lot of chemistry at the moment, and they're figuring out everything they need to do throughout all of these games.
LG Divine just taking these whites north of the Yasnaya Pond. Fury actually going to go towards Stalba. Obviously, most teams are anticipating this is going to go north of the Rossok River rather than a hard shift down south for phase number 2. And I'm definitely sort of with them there. It is a little bit more north. It's not substantially north edge. It's kind of like a 60-40 split if you sort of look at it from the river's perspective, but more so from the pond's perspective, I guess. The river itself is obviously further south. You've got Cerberus and Burim quite close to each other as well, just to the east of Yasnaya Poliana, as Kamal's sending it in for Victim Rise. They're looking to find these locations early on. And with this sort of circle, the quicker you do get in, the better. You probably don't want to be coming in quite late.
Now, this isn't really a coming late kind of circle, unless it obviously comes back down south. But it's quite interesting to me how congested the northwest side of the circle really is here. There's not too much separation between the teams. The east side's pretty much completely free. So if this goes hard east, this circle will absolutely be chaotic with all the teams rotating and trying to find whatever spot they can to sort of.
I think it's already quite chaotic already, to be honest, actually, the way we're seeing everything happen now. Rabbit's going to get IQ 500. We saw Sulaby go down earlier from Magic Esports. Rabbit trying to just hold strong here, getting pushed from the stairwell. Does get the knock on the Fergus, but that's all it will be. Long K was there for the retrade, and Division X Gaming will be successful. Neil also getting the revive to IQ 500 in the middle of the road here at the quads. Mickey's further north for Hydra Gaming, but they're going to lose Rabbit, even if Tuan and Simon and Mickey all make their way in. At best, it's just to sort of remonstrate, maybe try and get a kill or two back on Division X. I'm not sure if sending it into them is the best idea, especially now you've already lost your teammate.
Yeah, it's looking like a bit of a split decision here. Yeah, they're trying to re-breach, and especially because all the players have been revived now. You've been gone for a long time. I don't think this is the greatest decision.
I guess you could try and be friendly neighbors one side of the road. It probably doesn't pay off too well, though, for the team that's already down a player. But it could happen at least for the next minute and 50 seconds, provided that you can keep your vehicle safe. I don't think it's the right play, and they don't think so either. They do bail out. Wasted a couple of nades, but if they can get out with all three intact, it's not so bad. They lose one, though. Two in Robo. Goes down to Neil. and he will be flushed. So in the end, even further pain inflicted onto Hydra Gaming by Division X. And well, they were a team that lost too early on in the last game. Now they cause it to another team. Simon and Mickey remain over at the warehouse, and I don't know why they didn't just go here in the first place.
Well, poor decision, because Hydra originally had the warehouse. They gave up what is looking to be a better position to go take a 3v4 against Division X. I don't think that's in any situation a good decision, even if your knocked out players hasn't been flushed out yet.
Yeah. Even if he was just not flushed, he's still going down in the middle of all four of them. Elgin bots of Angel Alliance will be eliminated by Boss Sense, and we haven't seen much of Angel Alliance so far tonight. Obviously only in our second match of the night. And that's not going to really help their cause either, losing a player early on. And they're a team, no offense, but a team that's going to need all four players up if they're going to make really a splash here in this lobby. Going down to 3. There's only a certain amount of teams I look at in this lobby that if they go down to 3 early on can still make something happen. And probably those are the teams in the top 5.
For sure. I think the likes of your Fury, last PCS, they were quite open and said that, you know, they struggled because they were losing players early on. And even though they were still strong with 2, with 3 players, having 4, we've got so much more firepower. So it really pays just to make sure you're keeping your 4 players alive for as long as humanly possible.
Nine minutes so far elapsed here for match number 2 of the night. 10 in total. Can you believe we're almost halfway through PCS3 APAC? It will be by the end of tonight. We'll be starting sort of the second half of the season tomorrow night. Monty does find a beautiful compound here for phase 2, which obviously went towards Stalba, which is good news for Fury. They are in control of the top of Stalba at the moment. Cerberus and also around the Komeshki region will be able to hold firm towards the northeast. And as we've kind of already seen and alluded to, it's going to be a massive logjam out towards the west of this circle for phase 2. Every compound already occupied. So for teams like Division X, Purple Mood, Unicorn, VTR, Day Trade, I don't know where you're going to go. There's really no real estate available. So it's either breach, find a bowl, a ditch, send it towards something like Stalba, go towards the other side of Stalba, so a long rotation. Or I don't know. Just sit on the edge of the circle, I guess, and hope and pray.
Yeah, it gets pretty difficult, especially with these northeastern circles. You've only got a certain amount of playable like compounds, but you've got a lot of little bits of terrain that you can play off. But it's just knowing the limits of each spot and whether it can be seen by someone else. But it's really going to be a struggle for the likes of Day Trade and From the Future to find something here. From the Future might be pretty lucky coming in on the south, because obviously everything southern side of Yasnaya is completely free, so they might be able to get a little bit of space, but after that it gets really questionable.
A lot of it obviously does depend on phase number 3, where that circle shifts as well. Intriguing though, From the Future are going to take the Roshawk Bridge. They do go early rather than going towards Yasnaya. I think they're actually going to go towards Sharper Esport, Day Trade potential. As we look at Unicorn here pushing into Severny. Obviously, you don't really want to be pushing into Severny because it's not even inside of the circle right now, but they've done so nonetheless. They've got out of the vehicles. They're happy to run around, and I'm a little bit perplexed right now. Boss Sense on the top of the roof. I mean, this is all fine and dandy, but I'm not sure exactly what the game plan is here for Unicorn. That blue is not too far behind. You can see it there in the distance, and they don't know that Boss Sense is here. Well, now they do. Maybe they did know the whole time. Never mind, 200 just spotted him on that roof and does cop the shots. Boss Sense will be eliminated. Unicorn get a kill. They're on the board here tonight for day number 3. They're going to get moving very, very quickly, and I don't sense they've really got anywhere to go. Looking at the map, what I can see, they've got 3 teams directly in front of them, really. And if they go past those 3 teams, there's another 3 teams waiting for them. I would be surprised if Unicorn are alive by the end of phase 3.
Unicorn could make the heads-up play and just drive along the beach until they find something free, but it's not really looking too likely, and especially with Angel Alliance sitting on that petrol station on the outskirts of Saverney, it's probably going to be a pretty rough drive. But I mean, from my perspective, Unicorn did what they needed to do. They got a 1 point on the board, so they've started themselves off decently well for the night. Let's see if they can get an extra 1 or 2, as we see From the Future picking up 1 onto Daytrade's Marines. So good start. Belmouth going down as well. From the Future picking up those 2 points. They've been a little bit quiet so far, so this is good for
two kills
them.
though.
It definitely is.
Mip and Zuzu has been a standout From the Future. Been really good to watch him play. Gypsy Danger going to go for the shots onto the rotating Unicorn and Cyber, who are going for the hard rotation here. Now this, I will say, ambitious. They're going to lose best 1-3-0-1 here, but it was actually probably the smart play. As difficult as a rotation as this is, it's the smart play, because if they had just gone directly and beelined towards the center of the circle, they would have gone through, I'm not even joking, like 6 or 7 teams, as we've seen in the map before here for phase 3. So they're rotating all the way to the Yasnaya. To the south, they'll push up from the north. What happens from there, we'll have to wait and find out. They may be spotted by Fury, Buram, for instance, or LG Divine, but it will give them a higher chance of surviving to the end of phase 3. Victim Rise here, though, just on the very edge of Stalba towards the western side of it, close to Division X. And well, kind of like match 1, they're going to go and do a tango again. Long K has just been shot out from a distance by Chibarit, and will be flushed very quickly with a bit of help from Kamel's 3 early kills here for VTR. And talk about getting revenge for match 1, where it was Division X who stole the 2 kills away from Victim Rise. This time they've done it themselves.
Victim Rise will be absolutely laughing right now, getting a couple of kills on the board. They're sitting around pretty much the dead middle of the pack, so everything counts at the moment. And they've got themselves a pretty decent spot to move in off. They've got themselves the edges. They've got a little bit of room to move with, and it looks like they can potentially pick up some rotating kills here onto From the Future if they're lucky.
Great rotation as well. You can see on the minimap, Purple Mood going to go very high up north, just riding that blue wave. They'll come in towards the circle around Cerberus's position. Angel Alliance in the thick of this as well. From the Future, just sending it literally through 2 teams right now. Victim Rise and Angel Alliance. Mad Dog, Evil Patrick, the ones that are closest. But Triple X and Hexagon do make it through here for From the Future, and they can probably now get to a bit of a safe haven around this position of Stalba. There's not too many teams. You got Waiki Kamukau and Insight on the very tippity top of Stalba, but that position's not really going to be a position where they're going to be peeking and binding kills. Simon getting pressured and pushed by Neil, does get the knockdown. There's only one more to deal with, and he's got the high ground. Surely can't lose those. Somehow has Fergus with a great flick up above, has been able to drop Simon. Mickey now in a 1 versus 1. Has the high ground though. Surely should be able to win it from here. The blue comes in. Hexagon somehow knocked by Waiki Kamukau. I think From the Future got a little bit greedy. Went to that tippity top of Stalba and had pushed into Fury. In the end, Hydra Gaming did end up winning that fight. I thought that was going to be a horrible loss to have for themselves, and in the end, I guess it was. They just went out apparently in second last, and it's all happening all of a sudden here. Now phase 4, and it's gone right on top of Flood and Ronan at the warehouse, the base of Stalba, north of Yasnaya. A complete hard feed here for Fury, and 2 early kills. A great game potentially brewing for Fury.
Yeah, and From the Future there, I can't help but feel they just, as soon as they found any sort of spot, like they drove through 6 teams, as soon as you find any spot you should be pulling up, the more you drive, the more likely you are to drive into more people. And it shows because they've just been wiped out by Lokis from Bay there. So not a good game from the Future. It looked like it had potential, but they just weren't able to convert it there.
So into the warehouse, this is, I guess, setting the tone for Fury this match. They have got center position here for phase 4. Buram on one side, you can just actually see them when they're off in the distance, and they got LG Divine on the other side. I wish we could bring up the map right now to sort of show LG Divine's position, but Edge, look how many teams are around LG Divine in this position. Definitely a team to watch over the next 3 to 4 minutes.
If LG make it out of this with all players or even alive here, I'd be very surprised, because they're just going to get collapsed on by at least 5 teams. So it'd be a big play from LG Divine, but we've got a lot of our top contenders around there as well, like MG, Magic. They're not far off. They're going to be holding the higher side of Stelber against Angel Alliance. So as long as they can finish up Angel Alliance here, they might have themselves a nice spot without a lot of people for a little bit of time here.
There's a bit of a trade here. Evil Patrick's going to go down. Nan did get a knock onto Tong K, but hasn't quite been rewarded for it just yet. Victor Rise able to dodge that nade though from Bryn. Now just playing as a 3. Bryn, the front man here, pushing up that hill is not going to be easy. There's a trade though. 1-for-1. Monty's down. They did get Kamals. In fact, Samoy going to be knocked as well by Bryn's Molotov. So in the end, 2-for-1. Not bad. Haven't been able to finish any of them off though. Monty has been flushed himself though by Chibaret. And this was the sort of section of the map I was talking about for LG Divine. They haven't got involved yet. They've held their ground, and they're sort of just letting these teams kill each other on the edge of the circle. And this fires everywhere. Valix from above and from behind send Angel Alliance down in 13th position. And unfortunately for Ferox, the high ground was too strong for Victim Rise, who have got 8 kills here for match 2 of the night. And it gets them into the top 8 now, tied for points with Division X Gaming. Isaki eliminated by Biram. And all of a sudden now, I guess over the last minute or two, it has just cleared up because we've had so many deaths. Players and teams are out. Poochels, Veronica, a quiet night continues for Day Trade Gaming. Biram only the 1 kill at the moment, but I suspect with 4 up and they can sweep this eastern side of the circle, they should be very prominent towards the end of the game.
They definitely should be. With the likes of Biram and Bay, like the only 2 real contesters on the eastern side, they don't even have to touch each other. And especially with this circle coming in, they can just hold their ground. They've got a lot of space, Bay holding the north, Biram holding the south, and they can just control these zones, not let anyone else in, and just come in late game and just finish everything off. But like we were talking about before with the LG Divine, they've literally stayed still, done not much, and everyone's just fought around them. And LG Divine's just kept themselves alive, and now they're starting to come in and starting to pick up kills. So good play by LG. They're going to make it into the late game as well, I would say here, unless Simoy has something to say about it. But I don't know how much he can get done from the blue here.
Oh, he's going to get that.
Will pick up 1, but that should be an instant revive, depending on how quick Magic Gaming can start to push down to rush this out. And Tonkei's got a line through the trees. Not able to pick it up.
Yeah, but Jun is going to be left for dead. That blue continues to move anyway, so LG Divine will have to push on with just their 3 remaining players, JN, Namsi, and Levi's. Still a couple of teams around them. This is one of the old tropes, though, Edge. You know, for Fury, they're in that position where they've been hard-fed at the warehouses, but that position isn't really going to be able to net them kills. They did get a couple very early on at the top of Stalber, but since then, obviously, they've found it quiet. But the way that Phase 5 has just shown itself, I actually think this is where they can now potentially get some kills, because these Western teams like LG Divine, Sharper, Magic Esports, if they don't go up north, they're going to have to push in, and we're seeing it right now already. Of course, LG Divine are more than happy to push early, to push quick. They're very decisive like that. It's Kim Siver, though, from a distance, who steals the kill away from Fury. JN knocked by the nade of Insight. Following up from that nade was Blood's nade, and very quickly, LG Divine just gets sent packing in 9th place. No placement point from this match. In fact, really not many points at all. So at least for the teams from 2nd to 7, they can at least just build up a bit of a platform and just climb closer towards LG Divine's very, very high point gap.
Yeah, and that was a really heads-up play there by Fury as well, because they were looking around and they saw that they couldn't overextend for the fight, so they just used utility to clean it up. They didn't push out. If they had of, Magic would have been able to easily pick up at least a knock and a kill there, I would say. So Fury being able to keep the numbers is actually so big for them right now. And now you see Waikika Mukau starting to come alive, gets a knock onto Just Moments from Purple Mood, not Purple Fury. Interesting team name though.
So Phase 6. Here for our final match of Erangel for the night already, and it goes right on top of Biram United. Fury have had the feed pretty much up until this point, and I would actually say it's not really still a bad thing either. They should now be able to get some kills here. So 5 on the board, They basically got 3 kills out of that feed. How many can they get now that they've got to start moving again? Ronan just checking these rocks, expecting Sharper Esports to maneuver around here. Ronan gets on the bike, moves away. Fury's still with 4 up, Buram with 4, and Bay with 4. We haven't seen much from Bay this game. We saw Loki's find a kill earlier on, and Sophia with a knock on to Flood. Good information as well for Bay here, and they're putting so much pressure on, popping the tires on the bike. They get the knock, they get them stuck in the warehouse. And I think a few smokes are going to have to be used here for Fury to get out from this position. They've got 2 minutes until they have to be further in the next circle.
Yeah, and for Fury here, it's really important that they wait out the blue zone, wait until Sharper gets pushed in towards them. Sharper might opt to go under the rocks rather than push directly at Fury, and if they do that, that could make it really difficult for Fury actually to get out of these warehouses, but it does look like Sharper are pushing directly into Fury now.
And obviously, if Fury are too concerned with trying to leave the warehouse, they leave their backside completely open. Maximus, though, goes early with the shots. And that gives away Sharper Esports' position here, pushing up to the warehouse. And there's still plenty of time, so Fury can turn around, try and fight this a little bit, make it even difficult for Sharper. I mean, Sharper are the ones that obviously have to push the issue first. They're closer to the blue, so they are going to be the aggressors in this situation. Fury, they're all lumped together. I can just sense a nade being thrown in and seeing a couple of dead bodies flying around. 67 points at the moment for Fury, tied with Bay. Both of them 10 points behind Buram, who are probably going to get max points from this game. So his Insight just catches to Noid. Surely expecting the refrag to come. Catches the feet there, actually, of Maximus as well. Has Ronan too to cover. Get that quick refrag as well if needed. 2 smokes are up at the back end of this warehouse, a couple inside of the warehouse up as well. Tonight will be eliminated, so Sharper down to just 2 players in a 2 versus 4 against Fury. I don't sense this is going to go well for them. Kim Siver, Maximus on the other side of this warehouse, but Fury need to get moving as well.
Yeah, Fury's been given a lot of space because Buram's actually pushed on towards Bay now. Bay was trying to hard gatekeep Fury. Flood picks up the winning players onto the Sharper Esports. But now Fury's got to get out. Ronan does get knocked out. Insight will go for that res. Bay left down now only to Sophia after having all of that northern control. Buram's made it really difficult. Waikikamuka, nice knock onto Tonkei. This will definitely help them start to get, but they still have Unicorn Cyber, the last player from Cerberus, and Buram on their heels. So
yeah, Buram just
be
sort
very
of
rough.
Swept up to the north. They dealt with Bay. They've got complete circle control, complete phase 7 control here. They know where Cerberus, Unicorn, Fury are all located. At this point, it would be incredible if they don't win this game, unless Fury can get out of here with all 4 players up, makes it a 4 versus 4, which at this point I can't suspect might happen. Subang could be the anti-hero here, sitting at the rocks. Flood is going to be knocked by Nordra, though he's not going to be involved towards the late stage of this game. Subang has been spotted, though, by Ronan. Flood is out, and we're down to 4 versus 3 versus 1. It's Klee, Unicorn, Cyber. This is going to be the most amount of points they're getting in one game, I think, for the whole season so far. Somehow, Unicorn have made it to the top 3 in this game. 7 kills for Buram, though. Fury obviously have done well to this point, but they're losing players too quickly. Inside did get Klee. It's down, though, to a 2 versus 4, and Nordra's just knocked Insight so quickly, and that blue starts making its way in. It's down to Ronan. And even Ronan can be like Korean, and sometimes a 1v4 is even out of his depth and at a lowered position. Buram, talk about control to close out match number 2 of the night. They pick up the chicken dinner here for PCS3 APAC Day 3. And that closes out Erangel, and they also close the gap to LG Divine. It's only 20 points now.
Yeah, Buram played their edge of circle, as usual, exceptionally well. They did absolutely everything they needed to. They put north originally, cleared out Bay. Bay was just being a pest to everyone on the lower side of the circle. And then they swept back in and started taking their control back. And once they had control of that circle, no one else had a hope. But one big thing I really want to point out for Fury there is Fury knew that they had no hope in that game. They really did. And they literally just started running at everyone, trying to pick up as many kills as they could before they walked into the Buram blender.
Yeah, I think you touched on it perfectly. Buram's edge control definitely shown there on display here for match number 2 of the night. Well, it all started off, of course, with a bit of a flurry early on. Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, causing a lot of rotations as we headed towards Stalber for this match. Unicorn Cyber, look, I said they wouldn't make it in. They made the right rotation. They got towards the circle, and to their credit, Klee was able to stay alive to the very end and got them a top 3, placing their best placed finish so far for PCS3 APAC. I'm happy to hear my words there. They did well in the situation they were put in. Magic Esports, unfortunately, when Tom K goes down, they don't really do too much else from that point onwards. Levi's, well, LG Divine, they had it tough this match, Edge, and unfortunately for them, they weren't able to show us what they've got when the going gets tough.
Yeah, it just wasn't enough there, but it was a pretty good showing, honestly. Like, they did a lot of work to get as far as they did, and
I mean, they got 2 points, I mean...
Yeah, but the position that they were stuck in, it was sort of a rock against a hard place. So, I mean, they could more, obviously, but, you know, at the end of the day, it is what it is.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, look, eyes are going to be on LG Divine pretty much from now until the end of this season, but we shift focus to Buriram United. They, of course, got the chicken dinner. They are now only 20 points behind LG Divine, and I think it actually just goes to show how quickly things can change in PUBG Esports because, you know, from a 40-point gap, and we're sitting here saying, okay, it's PCS2 all over again. They've got this great lead. They're going to run away with it. Well, 20 points, it's not that much. We've still got a lot of games to play as well. We might not have a runaway on our hands. We may not even have a capitulation on our hands either, because really for LG Divine, they only got to that 40-point gap for one game. For everything else, it's been 20, 30 points, which is not that much of a lead anyway. For Buriram, though, they do pick up their second win of the tournament. So they're keeping up the pace really, really nicely.
3 more wins and they'd probably a little bit more comfortable along the likes of LG Divine, but you know, you get what you can. Buriram coming out, getting a lot of kills with it as well, and same with Fury. They're definitely keeping the pace up there.
Yeah, obviously, I think, and it's nice for me, an Elfish guy, really. On the first weekend, during the pre-shows, we really highlighted what is the proverbial top 3 of APAC, and that's LG Divine, Buriram, and Fury, and they're very much showing that as the match leaderboard shows it heavily too. Talk about sponges there at the top. Buriram and Fury, 20 and 18 points. That's a large chunk of points going to just the 2 teams. Everyone else in single digits, and obviously the big one, LG Divine, just the 2 points gained. Bay, though, I thought they'd get more from that match considering their position. They had 4 up towards the late game, but they, like many teams, kind of got swept by Buriram towards the end. Only the 4 points gained, but they do hold a top 4 placing. Sharper rounding out the top 5 right now. But in terms of the top 4, Edge, it's pretty similar to PCS2 APAC.
Yeah, it's starting to look that way. It's very close and it's slowly building out. Obviously, we come into this tournament and our favorites would have been Divine, Buriram, and Fury, and this shows exactly why. They've all got the fragging power, they've all got the game smarts, so it just comes down to the RNG of PUBG and each individual game as it comes.
There's still a bit of a logjam, I think, from about 4th to 9th. I'm happy to sort of call it there. Angel Alliance, Hydra Gaming from the future, the teams that were in the more extended logjam at the start of the night have fallen away just slightly. Need to see potentially a little bit more from them over on Miramar, which I guess for a team like Angel Alliance, for instance, they've been fantastic on Miramar. Another team that's been fantastic on Miramar has been LG Divine. So much so, they haven't actually lost a game on Miramar so far for PCS3 APAC. So we're going to, I guess, see if that trend can continue, Edge.
If this continues, I don't even know what to say. They're probably the best, obviously the best Miramar team in APAC. They've just had that much of a solid showing.
Well, LG Divine are 4 from 4 of Miramar so far here for PCS3 APAC. They've got 2 more Miramar games to come after the break. Slap on the sunscreen. We're heading over to Miramar. Erangel is done and dusted for the day. 2 games remaining, and so far we've had a banger of a night. Edge. It, of course, was the LG Divine weekend last weekend, but so far it hasn't quite gone all to plan for them. That lead now down to just 20 points with the Miramar United victory. It puts the pressure right onto them. But of course, the storyline doesn't drift too far away from LG Divine for very long, because as we head into Miramar, as I said before the break, they've got a 4 out of 4 record of getting wins on Miramar so far for PCS3 APAC. That's right, they've won every single Miramar game so far, and we've got 2 games to come. If they can win those 2, it bodes well for their chances of winning PCS3 APAC.
We almost might be coming back to PCS2, where teams started to catch up. LG Divine started to choke a little bit. You know, it might be happening a bit earlier than previously. So hopefully for LG Divine's sake, they can keep their composure and keep on having consistent games here coming up, because they're definitely going to need it. Fury and Buram are hot on their heels. Yeah,
definitely. And you know that they're not going to go away. We've seen that throughout PCS 2020. Every single one of the events that those teams, Buram, Fury, constantly keeping the pressure on the teams at the top. Here's the damage, though, from match number 10, our final game of Erangel. No surprise, really, here. Edie leading the way. He's been a huge standout for Buram United so far here for PCS3 APAC. 2 members from Fury as well on the board there. Shows what a decent game that they had, too. Of course, they're still right in the race for that top spot. They're not going to go away easy either. The lead is, I believe, 34 points for them. So they're about 34 points behind top spot at the moment, which is really not that large considering we've still got a good 14 games to go. There's a lot of PUBG still to get through.
Yeah, and what we see from players like Tongkai, they're always picking up damage, they're always picking up kills, even though their team might not be converting that well into the late game, but they're always just getting points to keep themselves relevant. Yep. So we've still got all of these teams that are just fighting with everything they've got, tooth and nail, until they can't anymore.
Teams that do need to turn around, though, picked on them a few times now. Angel Alliance, great day number 1. A lot of that coming on Miramar, though. So as we do head back to Miramar, I'm excited to see how Angel Alliance are going to go. If they can pick things up, maybe turn their fortunes around. They have, unfortunately, now dropped down to 10th. At one point, they were in the top 5 and cemented quite so as well. Division X have sort of held firm around middle of the pack, whereas, of course, Bay have continued their trend upwards. That was a discussion we had at the start of the show when Bay were in that 9th or 10th position, and Division X were in that 9th or 10th position as well. We head into match number 3, though, of the night for day number 3, a PCS APAC number 3. It all comes up in 3s, although for LG Divine, they're looking for number 5, win number 5 on Miramar.
Yeah, number 5 win. It'd obviously be beautiful if you're LG Divine, but how plausible will it really be when we've got all these other teams coming in and looking to take away the throne from Divine? We've got our top 5 players up at the moment, and we still see the likes of Buram up in that equal number 1 spot with the likes of NAMC and Gen Foss. So even Gen Foss, VTR have been having pretty decent games. They're getting a lot of kills. Miramar, they're up in that top 5, so we'll be able to see if they can really pull out all the stops as well here and get some more points on Miramar.
LG Divine, 65 points here on the rankings to the right-hand side of your screen. The next best is 30, with 3 teams, Shampa, Division X, and Cerberus. So those are the ranking points on Miramar so far over the first 4 Miramar games that we've seen so far. Down the bottom, though, not good news for the likes of Purple Mood, From the Future, Unicorn. For those guys, usually getting more of their points on Erangel. So they'll, of course, have to turn their fortunes around here on a map that hasn't really been quite fortunate for them. 113 points. That's where LG Divine are at right now. They picked up 2 points in the previous game. We do head north, which is a bit more of a hilly terrain, as Elfish Guy likes to label it, compared to the south side. Definitely more mountain up on the north side of Miramar.
What we've actually been seeing a little bit recently from these kind of circles is it going actually north side of Le Cobra area. So I'll be very interested to have one of those circles for PCS3 because they're always quite interesting, and especially in the APAC region would be very extra spicy. So it'd be nice to see something up there, but generally they kind of always just come back down to Crater Field sort of area, and you've got your sort of stock standard finishes. But I'd definitely be interested in having a bit of a spicy one.
Certainly been a while since I've seen Oasis as well as a finish. It's very difficult to see that one, or even just at least around the Oasis region, as you were saying, even just north of La Cabrera. But usually with this sort of circle, my bet would be either Crater or water treatment. Those tend to be, I guess, the staples as you kind of hear. Watching Edie, though, for Miramar United Esports has just been amazing so far for PCS3 APAC. Really, as a whole, throughout 2020, I think a lot of the focus has been on Nordra. At one time, an MVP over in the Thailand series. God Meow's great. Kanaxi also gets a lot of the attention, but I think Edie has stepped up in terms of really grabbing the attention here for PCS3 APAC. And speaking of attention, well, no team gets as much of it than LG Divine, for good reason, and especially as we head over to Miramar, where they're averaging 16.3 points and 6.3 kills. Ridiculous stats for them. Obviously, the 10 placement points and the 6 kills is why they're averaging 16. But it's if you're averaging 16 points a game, Edge, you're winning any tournament in any region.
Yeah, I mean, that's an absolute comfortable win. I think generally on average, the winning team is sort of like around 10 points across each map. And that's if they're having like an absolute ripper of a tournament. So, and we do know Divine has been having an absolute ripper of a tournament. So they can carry that up and they're going to be sitting pretty.
Couple of seat swaps there into Gypsy Danger from the future Bay, driving by San Martin and Hacienda. Tong K is going to be the first elimination of this game, though, and well, it's never good to lose a teammate, but when it's arguably your best player, Magic Esports, are going to be up against it here for the remainder of the game. 4 minutes in, and you've lost Tong K, your damage dealer, your high kill getter, your initiator, and just your general star player. And now you've got the rest of LG Divine pushing on your position. This does not bode well. Valix is able to stay alive, though, avoid the brunt of that damage, get to the minivan as LG Divine start to sweep around the compound. Magic might get fortunate here if a player like JN or Jun push a bit too early. They get knocked early, they can go down, and that's going to make it very difficult then for LG Divine to continue this push. But it's LG Divine who are the ones being aggressive, getting the knock. They got the tag onto Umamar, forced them away from the window. The nade goes in to confirm it. JN throws the underarm as well, jumping on over Jun, and he's got backup as well. Look how quick they sweep through. It's only Valix that remains. And without Tong K, Magic Esports were always going to be sitting ducks. Did get the knock onto Jun, but fortunately JN was there. 4 early kills for LG Divine, and welcome home to Miramar.
Yeah, Divine really don't want to give up their lead right now. They're taking first circle breaches as such a big risk, but the reward is so strong right now, especially because they get such a central spot. They have Levi split off as well. We did see Bay up on the top hill above them. I thought Bay might have taken one for the team and tried to help out Magic in wipe out LG there, but they're just so strong. They absolutely swept them so quickly and with such ease. It's just brilliant to see a team in such good form.
Pick'em Challenge update as we continue to progress throughout the tournament. Obviously, Unicorn got a bunch of votes prior to the game's starting due to apparently having a rather a bit of a celebrity, I guess, as part of the roster. Unfortunately, though, I'm not sure if they're going to be receiving many more votes now that it's quite evident they're not going to be winning PCS3 APAC. LG Divine, you would think at this point, have obviously the best chances. Clee doing a bit of a barrel roll with the Murado. That's not going to be flipped back up without some help. Of course, for LG Divine, they have now taken first place for the Pick'em Challenge. Biram Fury, not quite as close as maybe they were. PCS2 APAC in terms of these challenge points. Of course, the date hasn't quite finalized yet. I could be wrong, Edge. You might know. I think it closes after tomorrow's game.
I believe so. I think after Europe has finished their game for Sunday, it'll close up. So that'll be when you'd want to make your pick'ems, and you can almost secure a top 3 placement. But obviously, you want that winning spot. So leaving it till the last second is probably the best way to go about it. Just don't forget about it. That's the only problem.
Yeah, exactly right. Obviously, leave it to the last second. Or at the very least, if you're voting for APAC, you may as well just leave it until tomorrow night. Results are done, and then you can vote. You'll still have a bit of time. So, obviously, right now, I'm not sure if I can actually recommend any votes because at this point, it's only a 24-point gap from LG Divine to Buram. But I would say the top 2 will be a very safe bet.
The top 2 should be pretty safe here. The likes of Fury, they've done it before. They can probably do it again. But even still, at the moment, I'd put it as too close to calls for the pack, especially.
Bryn knocked down by IQ 500. Hasn't quite been the day that Ferox would have liked, especially after their turnaround for day number 2 last weekend. Bryn is going to be eliminated. Samoy will be revived. Quite a few deaths, actually, very early on. Surprising. I don't know, only 5, but on Miramar, 8 minutes in on Edge. Edge. I think that's surprising. Typically, Miramar's the sort of map that you just see a bunch of knocks from a distance, revives take place. Obviously, the fact that LG Divine wiped out Magic Esports is a large reason for that, but it's still quite staggering. And it really just opens up the map now. As we see with 14 seconds to go, there's so much of this map still available that if you are like an Angel Alliance still in El Pozo, really not much of a big deal unless it, say, hard shifts out towards the east. Then, of course, you're going to have a bit of a rotation. But any of those teams in the center are going to be happy, going to be fine. And even with this circle shift now, there's still a lot of real estate available, a lot of areas available. It does make Crater less impactful. Klee's going to be knocked by Belmoth for day trade, finished by Norans. Day trade on the board and another death to the tally. But water treatment sort of area is definitely going to be a factor. I'm not sure if we're going to get that Oasis finish, but around where Bay and LG Divine are located, really good positions, and Fury will make their way past Hacienda now.
The odds of it going up to that Oasis area is pretty much slim to none at this point, I'd say. Especially once you get to that phase 4 and it's going to force away the rocks. Unless we have 2 really hard shifts, I just don't see it happening. But we do have our leader at the moment, LG Divine, sitting very, very pretty in the center. Around them we have Division X and Hydra. So we do have the potential for a little bit of an upset here. LG Divine's compound isn't the best, but when you're getting fed, it doesn't matter where you are, really. So
yeah,
you just take that one on your stride.
Pick'em challenge code on your screen. You're quick enough to get that one in. Best of luck. As teams continue their rotations here for phase 2 of Miramar, which is usually actually a bit quieter than Erangel. Obviously, we had the LG Divine wipe on the Magic Esports, but outside of that, we go back to normality now. A lot of teams already situated early on. This is going to be a good circle though for Buram. They can get their edge of circle sweep style play at the moment intact around the water treatment area. I find that I would say Miramar is a harder map for that sort of playstyle compared to Erangel. A lot more open areas, a lot more open terrain. But they do have a decent compound out towards the east. In terms of where I think the action is going to take place, obviously towards the center here, LG Divine, they've actually had this position in one of the earlier Miramar matches, and they got completely fed onto this compound edge. From there, they went on and obviously won the game. Which was surprising to me because the position that Bay are holding, I thought would actually be better because it's that higher ground elevation. In the end, somehow LG Divine came out with the win, though.
Yeah, the problem with Bay's compound late game is that teams can get in under your compound and sort of surround you and it makes it really difficult for you to actually get out of the compound. So that's the big advantage to playing on the low ground there. And it's really difficult as well to sort of run down a hill in the open where running up you've got less threats if your back's already clear. So might be why it's a little bit favored there, but we've still got a little while until I think a lot of the fighting will break out here, and Purple Mood actually kind of prepared for if it goes north here, and I really, really hope it does. I'd love to see that circle.
Yeah, it can still go north, at least for phase number 3. Purple Mood situated just south of Oasis. Daytrade actually up north of Oasis at the moment. A lot of teams already pretty much at their compounds, at their locations. Everyone's quite settled. Not a lot of movement, more so just Daytrade rotating up north around Oasis. Angel Alliance just on the edge of La Cobra, and 10 seconds away from phase number 3. You can see on the map now, everyone's pretty happy with their locations. Very aggressive split from Verox. They've got Sweet Soul over on the top of Crater, just trying to get as much vision as possible. And they are going to be quite fortunate with this circle. It is away from Oasis. It's on top of Bay. LG Divine don't necessarily have to move. Ram will have to continue sweeping the edge of the circle, but I don't know if they can hold east of this circle, though. They'll be on the wrong side of the road. They'll be open to the likes of LG Divine. It's going to be tricky for them, but they might have to rotate up to the north side, play to those rocks, and look to get kills on Purple Mood.
Yeah, that might be the option for them there. Bay is actually sitting pretty here. Levi's looks like he is actually taking a bit of compound off Bay, taking the lower side of the shanties, as Levi's gets a kill onto 6X, rotating past their compounds, or from afar, I think, actually. So nice shots there from him, as From the Future is actually looking for a position as well. And it doesn't look like it's going to be going well, as Hydra Gaming has actually taken everything in the close vicinity to From the Future, but From the Future may just be going for this anyway.
Zuzu's continued on, just trying to go past, trying to get around and come in from behind and pin to them, but it's Triple X from the front. Does get Mickey, was flashed for a short amount of time. Rabbit's done well, did get a knock, but there is Zuzu, who did well to come around the backside here and get that pincer onto the two members of Hydra Gaming. Had a 2-2 split with 2N Robo and Simon at the warehouses, and unfortunately for Rabbit and Mickey, they're going to be the unfortunate two that did get pushed or sent from above, trying to get involved, trying to steal the kill. Not going to be successful though. Ram though have actually held out to the east. They didn't go for that northern wrap. They're happy to just keep their current position, stay on the edge of the circle, see what happens for phase number 4. Obviously, for pretty much all of the teams that were out to the west, around to the south, they haven't really moved at all. In fact, there's been barely any teams moving. I dare say From the Future and Buram are the only two teams that have really done much movement here for phase number 3. So again, another quiet circle here. 14.5 minutes into this match. We've got a minute until phase number 4, which is where I then expect everything to kick off.
Yeah, I definitely think it will. As soon as some of these edge teams get forced in, like you'd look at this circle and you go, all right, well, this kind of has to come hard south, get out the big unplayable rocks. So Purple Mood should be forced down, Daytrade will be forced down, and then you've got a lot of teams fighting for edge positions on that southern side as well from the north and west. So there's going to be a lot of fighting. Buram's put themselves in a position on these outside ridges as we see now, to sort of scout in and look towards the likes of Hydra and LG Divine. And if they can get a pick, that might be their go time to push in. And Canaxi's got an Orm, so you get hit by that bad boy, you're getting breached for sure here.
Purple Mood just found a knock earlier onto Veronica. Then Rocky Jims will get the flush. That's up north. Circle goes south, though. Right on top of Battle Arena Elite. Division X in a good spot, too. From the Future, their position that they pushed on before is in, so they will be able to get and reap the benefits of those rewards here. Now, Buram have finally made the move. We have been keeping an eye on them, talking about them out east. It might be difficult for them to get past LG Divine. For the most part, they've got Pi. Levi's just going to send it out of here. Smart play. I don't know how Edie hasn't just run over Nordra so close, as Nordra is going to be knocked by Flood. Jun might be the one to steal the kill here. They're all just picking apart like vultures to a carcass, and it's actually Loki's who comes out on top for Bay, stealing Nordra. But I'll tell you what, Buram have got two members in. Edie and Canaxi are in. God Meow making the last second dash over as well. If they can get all three into this sort of position, Buram is a team that can play well with three. They do have to deal with the oncoming Simon and Tuan. That's not the way, though, to make an entrance. Slow movement. Edie with the Grows are up close, and it's just fodder. He's going to spot him in the smoke. A double kill for Edie. Does get knocked, though, for his effort for pushing out and being aggressive. It's NamC from a distance who gets the knock. Cadaxi quickly with a smoke. Does have this little fence, though, to at least block any other incoming damage, as God Meow's also still struggling to get over. And Buram definitely sweating for it here in this match.
Yeah, Buram getting a little bit gifted here as well with that, the 2 sets of 3 gear and the Orm and the Grozer. So they're sitting pretty at the moment in the way of armor, but we've got LG Divine, Jun on the push, looking to try and pick up anything onto Buram right now. They want their closest competitor out of the game as quick as possible so they can move any points they get further on into this game.
Currently a 23-point gap between Buram and LG Divine. Painful Mood also have got their eyes, and this is, of course, Miramar in a nutshell. You stand on top of a ridge and suddenly 10 people can see you all at once, so you cannot be standing still at any moment, at any time. 1 minute and 20 seconds until Phase 5. We probably haven't even seen the full effects of this Phase 4 circle going south. Still a lot of teams that do have to make their way into better positions or even into the circle in general, like this Day Trade team who are just banged up and wounded at the moment. They've had a very rough PCS3, and that pickup truck has seen better days. It's missing a tire. It's got 2 injured players. Belmoth has been knocked. Day Trade are just struggling into this circle. They're limping in.
Yeah, and even where they pull up now is not a good spot at all. You've got Angel Alliance on the outskirts where you're needing to push in. You've got the likes of Division X on the high ground that are going to be gatekeeping you every second of the day. So it's not really looking very likely that Day Trade can make it into this next circle, but they're going to be trying. Maybe if they go down towards Unicorn Cyber, that might be their only avenue if they can take the fight against them and potentially pick that up.
Angel Alliance will have to cross this road as well. Day Trade are going to make it difficult for them. They've been quiet, Angel Alliance. Mad Dog, who was exceptional on day 1, has suddenly gone very, very cold. Even Patrick, though, with a bit of help from Nan, we'll be able to get Norin's eliminated. Poo Chills is gone too, and so is everyone from Day Trade Gaming down into the bottom 4 for a team that's usually competing in the top 6 or 7 positions for PCS throughout 2020. Certainly having a bit of a shocker so far. Hexagon will get the revive of the Gypsy Danger. We've seen Phase 5 now, right on top of Victim Rise. Rain's in a good position for Ferox. Just needs the reinforcements from Monty and Sweet Salt. Ferox playing with the 3 this game as Angel Alliance will begin their trek over the road towards Division X Gaming. Evil Patrick leading the way. He's actually been able to make it over pretty safely, unscathed. Although I would imagine Division X know that he has pulled up close by as Triple X keeping his eyes on Unicorn in this warehouse. As the rest are from the future will, of course, want to pick up a few kills here.
Yeah, and it looks like their efforts to pick up some kills is kind of being set behind a little bit now as Purple Mood's starting to make their way up the hill as well. So in the future, not as safe as they would have liked. Shots come out towards Unicorn Cyber, but nothing to come of it just yet. Unicorn Cyber looking to get deep while they can.
There's a big fight happening right now. You can see it in the kill feed. Sharper Esport versus LG Divine, and it's Sharper who are winning the battle. We do finally switch over to it now. NamC, the solo, and the Miramar streak has come to an end. Unless somehow NamC can hold on for the next 12 minutes or so as a solo. I don't even think he'll hold on for the next 30 seconds. Sharper Esports have done a tremendous job to beat out Levi's and Jun. 5 kills for LG Divine. So they are going to pick up 5 kill points, and it's a trend edge that we saw from PCS3 APAC. Even in games that Divine don't do so well, they find kills. They get 5-6 points still to go into the back pocket. Cerberus are being aggressed by Fury. Nade is unfortunately not going to bounce any further from Waiki Kamukau. Isaki's going to be revived. Now over to Sevilla's point of view. God Meow just lands a headshot. Keeps him back for the time being. NamC underarm nade, fall short. He's not going to get anything from that. In fact, he would have ended up blowing himself up anyway. That nade didn't even get over the crate. Now Cerberus, after getting the revive, they can push onto the compound of Fury. No kills yet for them. Nade might go too far and away. No? Yes? Haisaki's low. The Molotovs. No more nades now for Insight, but the Molotovs might do the trick here. Flood playing from inside this building. Might want to just dip out and actually have a bit better of a field of view. But then, of course, you take the risk for that. So Fury are basically just going to play defense and wait for Cerberus to push on in.
Yeah, and they're doing a good job of it so far, picking up Basil, getting the back player out, but Sololzi gets Ronan in trade. Waikika Mukau has 3 players very close and can't get out that window, luckily to do so now. But Fury needs to get their man up, needs to take this as a 4v3. Don't want to lose any players here because it'll definitely hinder your progress into the next coming zones. And
yeah, this compound as well is in the next circle as well for phase number 6. We've seen it here. There is a lot of teams that you can't see on that minimap that are really far up north. There's probably about 6 teams, I reckon, not in this circle. It's going to get hectic over the next 5 or so minutes. Of course, starting here with Fury versus Cerberus. They can take their time. There's not so much of a rush in terms of the blue zone. Crate dropping on top of Edie as he's driving by. Fury did get that revive, so they got 4 up right now. Here comes Miramar United, though. Edie from behind. They're walking into what is already a pretty significant ongoing battle. Edie's just going to get flushed, though, by Waikika Mukau picking up that kill. God Meow, though, not deterred. Miramar had nowhere else to go, though. I think they might find themselves eliminated pretty quickly here. 3 kills down for Fury, 2 to Flood, 1 to Cal. They've still got to deal with Cerberus. God Meow ended up blowing out to Kamals from Victim Rise. They're out in 11th and unable to capitalize on LG Divine going out very early on here. So down to Fury, Sharper, Bay, to do their own capitalization onto LG Divine and Buriram's early departure from this match. And I think Fury have had enough. It's go time. They're going to get on the front foot here. No more defense. Now they switch to offense. Ronan pushes on to Haisaki. Takes a lot of damage. Insight was going to go around the back anyway. Look for that retrade if he had lost the fight. He didn't. He did lose to Sololzi, though. Jumping out of that window is always going to be tough. But Waikika Mukau is on something right now, and they can get the revive onto Insight. Fury come out on top against Cerberus. A big fight to win, Edge. Not only do they get the compound, they stay alive in this game, but they can now capitalize on Buriram and LG Divine.
That was absolutely a must-win fight there for Fury. That allows them so much in this game. They've got the compound. If they can just get this into your top 3 placements with some more kills, they're going to be absolutely laughing. They're going to close the gap onto Buriram, make it a lot easier to catch up to Divine. We see from the future here, 1 player left remaining, putting up some numbers against Bay, but Bay gets eliminated in that 9th place. We're actually into our placement points. I didn't think we would a lot earlier, but Hexagon needs to do work and can't get anything done there as he gets taken down from Long K.
2 kills stolen as well, by the way, for Fury there from across the circle. They're up to 8 kills now as they get Sweet Soul. 3 quick points acquired. This is turning into a massive game for Fury. Looking for their second chicken dinner potentially as well. The fact that they're going to have 4 alive. The only other team with 4 up is Victim Rise, who have got a 2-2 split. Can you believe it? All the way now to this, 7th phase, and they're still holding a 2-2 split. Samoy, Chibaret are going to have to eventually make their way over to Gemforce and Kamals. I don't know how they're going to do that, though, in such open terrain. 4 kills for Angel Alliance, though. I've been banging on it all night. But if Miramar is their map, and they're showing it, and they're bringing it here for the team from the Philippines, they have definitely enjoyed Miramar more than Erangel.
I would assume so, yes. And this circle as well, this actually really favors them because they can still play this high ground. I'm not sure how open it is to the lower comms, but we're going to see Fury looking like they're going to need to make a breach against the likes of Sharper. They're in the bang bus. They're ready to go.
Oh, man.
All the players loading up. This is either going to be... Well, this is just going to be straight mayhem here.
Say it how it is, Edge. Straight mayhem indeed. They do drop down to a very small little bowl. It's actually a very large bowl, but the elevation is not so great. They have got 4 players up, not going for the immediate breach. I think this actually really highlights the difference between, say, an Oceanic team and a team like, for example, LG Divine and Buriram. Those teams would have just breached to Sharper by now, as we saw from Buriram earlier. We've seen from LG Divine many times. Fury, though, need a bit more conservative. They want to hold. They want more information. They need to see more before they go for that breach. Fortunately, if they do, and when they do, push on to Sharper Esport, Sharper Esport have only got 3 players up right now. Tanoi's got 4 of 6 kills, has been fragging out, but they are going to be at a disadvantage here, Sharper. They're the only team with 3. In fact, Victim Rise, Angel Alliance, and Fury all still with 4 players up here as the final 4 teams here for match 3 of day 3. And Angel Alliance have come to the fray here on Miramar like I thought they would. Victim Rise also doing well, keeping their place in the top 10. And that top 10 has started to form a bit of a gap from the teams in 11th and 12th and 13th as well.
Yeah, what we'll be seeing from the likes of Fury here is, and also, I'm not sure if Angel Alliance has got a vehicle, but if they're able to get a knockout on either one of these compounds, that'll be their go signal. They really don't have much to play with here, as Flood actually gets a knock onto Nam on the opposite hill. But that's what they'll be trying to do. They'll try to go for that knock, and if they can get one, that's their go signal to make that breach.
Problem is they can't really put any pressure onto Sharper Esport. A lot of it's just onto Angel Alliance right now. The smokes are out, and a lot of that's just going to obscure the vision of Sharper Esport more than anything. Throw most of it at the compound, a little bit at the start. Don't even worry about the middle of this field because you're just going to be driving through it anyway, really. Victim Rise, Angel Alliance, how much pressure are those 2 teams as well going to pile onto Fury? This is a really well-played smoke, although the driving skills of Wyatt Kikamuka and the minibus certainly leaving some questions here. Kim Silver does have a nade, brought it back to the barrel though, takes a bit of damage. That would have been from the backside. Victim Rise or Angel Alliance, for instance, as well. But Fury have at least made it to some cover. Flood finds a knock. They're not inside of this next circle though. The blue is moving. They've got 50 seconds to basically deal with Sharper Esport, or at the very least, push in, make some room. You're going to have to fight it out. They can't hold this position forever. Flood though gets 2 kills against Angel Alliance. Fury are up onto a killing spree, and they're into the top 3.
Yeah, this is absolutely perfect for Fury here. They've put themselves within 1 point of Buriram now. This breach is kind of looking good for them as well. Sharper is very segregated in the compound while Fury's sorting out their loot here. But if they can separate the 2 players from the 1 player in the open building, then this will be a really good breach for them.
As I said it before, the disadvantage very much with Sharper Esports. Tanoi, though, from that little balcony could spell disaster for Fury. And Victim Rise are just getting set up here as well. They understand the situation too. And Victim Rise have got 4 up. They're kind of like the final boss. They can also, of course, still impact the current fighters. They've got the knockdown onto Kim Silver. Ronan does get caught, but he's going to be the aggressor. He's got a bit of help as well if the retrade is required. White Kick Kamukau's there. He gets the knock, but it's Flood with a team knock as well. Kamal's then knocks Ronan, and all of a sudden Fury go from 4 standing to 2.
Yeah, it's not looking good, especially with all this pressure that VTR's putting on now. VTR up close and personal. Insight goes to finish the fight against Sharper, but will get taken out. So it's all left up to 1 player now.
Oh, wow. That's not the way that Fury would have liked to end the game. A great game nonetheless, but it's Victim Rise who come away with the chicken dinner. Anticlimactic a little bit towards the end, but well played from Victim Rise pretty much for the most of that game. They held a nice 2-2 split all the way till phase 7, really increasing their chances of getting that circle luck. Kamal's, Chibaret, 3 kills apiece. Well played to them, and I believe it is their first chicken dinner so far for PCS3 APAC. Indeed it is. That's going to, of course, bump them up the standings into the top 6. They are close to Bay, who are in 5th, only 3 points behind them. So a big game to be had for a lot of teams not named Buriram and LG Divine.
Yeah, it's nice to have another team getting a chicken dinner there, and it's nice to see VTR getting themselves from the middle of the pack and pushing themselves up towards that top 5. They're slowly closing the gap, because we saw in PCS2 they did have a pretty good finish towards the end as well. So yeah, if they can bring in that kind of level of play as well, that'd be nice to see. Fury pushing themselves into 2nd, equal points with Buriram. So another solid game there, and we've again got 2 teams within very easy distance of LG Divine.
Yeah, as we see the highlights here, it kind of kicked off the entire game with LG Divine. They didn't last very long though. In fact, well, this compound for phase 5 ended up being the final compound by the end of it when it was all said and done. Started out with Tanoi, who got the majority of the members of LG Divine. This was a big fight that unfortunately we didn't really get to see. Although, fortunately, it's in the replay package, so you can see how it all played out. Tanoy being the star man there for Sharper Esports, who, for them, are still in 4th position. They got a nice 10-point gap over Bay, who are in 5th. They're looking pretty good. And I'd say the top 5 is starting to really become solidified. If you're not in the top 5 at this point, don't know who you can take out. Bay, Sharper, Buram, Fury, LG Divine. They've all got history here in PCS APAC throughout 2020. They've all been amongst the top end of the leaderboards many, many times. I don't know who is going to be able to dislodge them. But I guess the teams that are pushing to do that, Victim Rise, Cerberus, Magic Esports, have all shown good signs that maybe they might be able to get rid of the likes of Sharper or Bay. I don't think that top 3 will change, though, although, who knows, funny things can happen. Speaking of the top 3, though, you brought up the good point in terms of now having 2 teams close to LG Divine. 23 points, considering Fury and Buram both tied on 95. LG Divine on 118. It was an LG's game. Obviously, the streak broken from 5 games. They have won 4 in Miramar, but they don't win this one. They did pick up 5 kills, though, and I kind of wanted to bring it up in the game. I touched on it briefly, but a lot was happening. That's been the staple for them throughout 2020. In the games that they don't win, they don't get high placement finishes, Edge, they still go and find 5 or 6 points somewhere.
Yeah, it's really been the story of their team is if you're not winning, you're getting 5 points and then dipping out. But, you know, I think especially now just looking at how competitive Fury and Buram are really being at the moment, I think it's really time that's kind of not going to cut it. You need to be getting some placement points with that as well.
I mean, I definitely feel what you're saying here, and I think actually it was Alphish Guy who alluded to it last weekend that once this Miramar train does come to a bit of a halt, which obviously they weren't going to win, they weren't going to go undefeated on Miramar, it was not going to happen. So at some point they were going to slow down. Is what else is there? What else is left in the tank? How are they going to go on Erangel? Is that going to sort of even it out? Look, I'll say this, though. If they're going to continue to have their best games, which is 15, 16 points, and mix that with their worst games being 6 points, typically history says they're going to go on and win. So it's a matter of if those 5 or 6 point games becomes too common, which going back to PCS2 APAC, that's exactly what happened. They had way too many in a row where they got like 3, 4, 5 games where they were only getting those 4, 5, or 6 kills, and they weren't having those massive monster wins that they had at the start of PCS2 APAC, and now in this case that they had at the start of PCS3 APAC. Here is match number 3 so far for tonight. We've got, of course, one more game to go. Fury, Victim Rise, both sharing the spoils from this match, 16 points apiece. Sharper Esports as well with 14, and for Division X Gaming, a bit of a reprieve because they were starting to slump down the standings. Nice 12 points there.
Yeah, they've had a pretty solid Miramar overall. Division X is kind of a team that I feel like they can, but at the same time, will they? They're a little bit inconsistent for my liking, but I think they definitely have that potential to push themselves up there. They are sitting in that 9th place as we see right now. So, and still, they're 5 points from 6th. It's not far at all. It doesn't take too much, and I think we've seen their Miramar kind of being a little inconsistent as well.
You can see there on the total leaderboard, in terms of kills, nothing really separating the top 4, 62, 62, 60, and 60. A substantial drop-off after that. In terms of the placement points, though, it is very, very tight from 2nd to 8th. Obviously, LG Divine have got a lot of placement points due to their 5 wins. And the other one, of course, is winning. Chicken Dinners. Of the top 7, 6 have got a win. And Sharper Esports, the only team yet to find a win in that top 7. And no team has found a win outside of the top 7. So winning, very much important here in this APAC lobby.
It is, and a team who really shows that from PCS2 is Fury, because they didn't get a win last time, and potentially that's what they needed to bring home the tournament. Potentially
that was the difference in the end for Fury. Well, of course, they're looking for redemption. They've been able to get that point gap down, 23 points, alongside Buram United chasing LG Divine. One more game to go tonight. Go to a break. When we come back, it's Miramar once again. Well, can you believe it? We are already down to just our final game of the night. It's gone pretty quick here for day 3 of PCS3 APAC. Of course, Miramar to come, and then we do it all over again tomorrow for then our next 4 games. But Edge, regardless, this is going to be the halfway mark now. After this match has been played out, we're going to know a lot more about potentially what the second half of the season is going to look like.
Yeah, and it's looking like a little bit of a repeat of last PCS. I'm not going to lie, but, you know, it could get a little bit more spicy. Who knows? We could have Ram pick up 5 wins in a row or something ridiculous like that. You know, PUBG is one of those games that every game, it's different. You can't tell. So,
yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
Well, the one thing we can tell is that it's going to be essentially like a 3-way battle right to the end here for PCS3 APAC. Fury, Biram throughout 2020, both teams have felt like they've missed out on one, that they probably should have had a PCS victory under their belt. For LG Divine, of course, winners for PCS2 APAC. They're looking to be the first team to win 2 PCS events. I think the other team being Sonics, potentially also this season of PCS in North America, look like they will be able to do that feat as well. But as you mentioned, very much looking like PCS2, and in this case, it's the gap has already shrunk. Not only was the gap not as big, but it's already shrunk just as quickly. 23 points now. That's it. That's all. That's not much. If LG Divine bow out early here and either Biram or Fury have a monster game, there could essentially be no gap between first and second when it's all said and done tonight. The damage, though, from the match 11 that we just saw, Nangon big for Angel Alliance representing the Philippines. Massive game from them. They looked amazing once again on what is essentially their home soil of Miramar. This is where they do their best work. Maximus, no surprise, sharper, involved all the way towards the end. Sophia continues what has been a tremendous personal PCS3 event for him, and Flood leading the way for Fury. Long K for Division X in that match. Nice spread to see 5 different teams in terms of the damage for top 5.
Yeah, it's a nice change of pace. It's nice to have a little bit of variety, and it's nice to see, you know, some players that we might not normally see up there, like from Angel Alliance. You don't really regularly see them up there, but obviously Miramar's been their map so far, so they're really putting it to them.
They certainly are. Look, there are still a few other teams that can put it to LG Divine and Biram and Fury. Sharper Esport, by no means are they out of it. They are only on 81 points, which is 14 points behind second and third, so they're still very much a team to keep an eye on. Then you got Battle Arena Elites, and we know how quickly that a team like that can get points. We saw it in PCS2. We've seen it with this iteration, of course, without Flood, and now with Jukesy. Outside of that, though, outside of those 2 teams, I do start to feel like the pack drops off a little bit. I would certainly still give Cerberus every chance, even though they're in 7th position at the moment. Magic have started to drop a little bit. Division X, of course, we've spoken about there. Their fortunes have really, unfortunately, turned in the wrong direction. They've dropped 2, and that's basically it. I mean, you could look at Victim Rise as well. They obviously just won the last game, but notably not a team that's usually competing in the top 3.
Yeah, that's right. Back to like the likes of Cerberus, they really haven't had that sort of good game since their win in round 8 last week. And, you know, they've only got, what's that, 2 kills tonight and a couple of placement points. So tonight has been incredibly rough for them, and it's not what I expected from them at all. No,
certainly not. As we head into our final match of the night, the halfway mark for PCS3 APAC. 12 out of 24 matches from this point on, where we go into the second half of the season. LG Divine, though, still ranking points on Miramar, 70. Ridiculous. Next best is Sharper, Division X, and VTR in the 40s. Fury not too far behind on 35. They've obviously done the brunt of their work more so on Erangel, so it was actually very, very positive for them to have a big performance on Miramar, which ironically used to be considered their best map in the past many months, and at this point many years ago.
Yeah, that's right. It seems like forever ago where Miramar was considered their sort of best map, and it's only just now that they're coming back into form. So it's definitely nice to see. It looks like we're having a little bit of a hot drop here on Los Leones between Fury and Purple Mood, which is quite unusual, and I'm not sure that Fury will be all for this, as I believe it's Flood picks up an M16 and is looking for the player who's dropped in town.
And Los Leones, though, as a city, is quite large.
Ooh, and that's
if you are going to have two teams dropping here, you can split up. It's probably the hardest city to actually hop a team specifically. Usually, you would, if you're actively seeking to hurt a team's chances, that does loot there. It's more so cutting off rotations and trying to catch them as they come out. I think at this point, Fury will just end up looting. Purple Mood will loot on the opposite side of Los Leones. I don't think really anything will come from this unless it's an accident. I don't think either Fury or Purple Mood will go hunting one another.
No, I don't think so. And for the likes of Purple Mood, I really don't think it's worth it trying to do anything to Fury here, because they're one of the teams. If you're hot dropping someone, you're not hot dropping Fury, you're not hot dropping Miramar or Divine. They're just way too strong in their team fights and team coordination. You just don't want to go down that road.
You see the gear and settings for Flood from Fury. Nice little display to see sort of what the pros at home like to use. We do have, of course, our phase 1 circle. Not sure if it's actually been brought up on the screen, but it's right on top of Los Leones. So it hasn't really gone far. And for Fury, Purple Mood, they are center of this phase 1 circle. Very southern to close out this night. Victim Rise, certainly still amongst the top 5, top 6. They're only 3 points behind Bay. Obviously picking up their first win of the tournament in the previous match, match 11. They'll be looking to go for back-to-back chicken dinners if they're going to close off the night in great fashion. A team, though, that I think off the back of PCS2 and also now what we've seen in PCS3 has become a staple here for the APAC region edge, where they're a team expected to be in the top 10.
Yeah, that's right. I think that they're having really good performances. They were kind of a dark horse going into PCS2, but throughout PCS2, they've shown us that they're definitely worthy of having a spot here, and then PCS3 is no different. They're only just going to improve the more that they get to compete in these leagues as well.
Hold on a second.
Comes up
This
against
is not
NMC
good.
And gets
NMC goes down
opener.
so easily there. You just cannot believe it. It's happened again for LG Divine, where they're going to be down a player early on. They can turn things around, I guess, with 3. But J-End at this point, the best play is to just leave. There's no point pushing into that compound. Get out while you can. Very unfortunate, considering that Kim Siver was actually the only one there. And if Kim Siver doesn't get that initial knock, he probably gets overwhelmed and loses out to the 2 versus 1. So LG Divine do have to be careful from here on out for the remainder of this match. The 3 remaining members are all inside of this phase 1 circle, so should be able to find a good spot, and that's probably the plan now. Find a good spot, bunker down, and hope for some circle luck.
Yeah, Divine did originally have a really nice spot where they've decided to regroup now, but I think they just got a little bit too greedy. They wanted a little bit more space than they should have really gone for, and it cost them a player. So not the greatest play, but had NAMC been able to delay for a couple of seconds longer, I think JN would have been able to trade that knock there.
Really decent kill proportions there from our top 4 teams. I think you definitely don't want to have, I would say actually, I don't think you would want anything over 35%. I think the reliance there on Edie, 37%. Not necessarily saying that there is a reliance on Edie, but you're getting to that point where, he's very close to getting 40% of your kills. That's a bit much. I think the 30% mark for your kill leader is exactly where you want it to be. You have essentially your 3 damage dealers, and then you got your support that's going to typically be the last 15 to 17% or so. Fury, though, have got some company, and is their neighbors across the sea from Malaysia, Singapore. Insight just spotting Loki's there on the on the cliff. Not going to engage on this, though, obviously by himself. The other 3 members of Fury, not really close. But when you get an opportunity like that, you got to take it, and he does, unfortunately, for Loki's.
That was as clean as they come for Insight there. The body shot, headshot, clean up with the barrel. Just lovely. The time to kill on the barrel's absolutely incredible, even after the nerf. So Insight really putting that to work, getting a nice point above Buriram now, closing the gap between Divine just a little bit, but every point matters.
Well, that's the damage proportion. I think those numbers are really good. In fact, pretty much 30-30, 29-30, and that's probably what you want. Sharper, though, the ones actually leading the way in terms of damage, despite the fact that of the top 4 teams, they are the lowest in terms of total points. So obviously conversion obviously hasn't been too strong of a part. Although, actually, they're up 60 kills, so conversion has been fine. It's more so placement points for Sharper Esport that has been a detriment so far. Kim Silver obviously found that early kill. LG Divine, 22 points is now the gap between them and Fury, and throughout the rest of this game, that could be the case of seeing that gap dwindle down if Fury can make hay while the sun shines, and the same can be said for Buriram as well. It's all about capitalization, and that's another factor, you know, when we talk about the parallels to PCS2. In PCS2, when LG Divine wouldn't have such a strong game, maybe only 3 or 4 points, Buriram unable to capitalize constantly. It just was a trend that continued over and over again, where they couldn't actually punish LG Divine. When they couldn't get points, well, Fury and Buriram didn't really get much either.
Yeah, and it seems to be the complete opposite at the moment. When Divine sort of loses out a little bit early, you've either got Fury or Buriram who are actually the ones to capitalize. And we've seen it multiple times. Like for the previous game, Fury alive to that late game. Buriram wasn't so lucky, but they've had other games where they've made it a lot further than Divine.
Division X Gaming with the long rotation all the way out to the sea, past the Twin Islands. They'll make their way in probably around Porto Paraíso, you would think. Maybe if they want to go earlier, it'll be close by to Buriram. Most likely the docks of Porto will be the destination for Division X Gaming, currently in 9th position. Should be able to hold on, and they definitely will hold on to a top 10 place by the halfway mark. Angel Alliance is creeping close to the west side of Los Leones to Ronan. Bit of a split right now with Fury. Cal further north, Insight has made his way down from the cliffs where he got the kill onto Loki's. We'll head into phase number 2 very, very shortly. And it goes really far down to the south. Porto Paraíso. No more Los Leones. That's out. That's completely gone. La Bendita, Picado, Impala, and Los Leones all out. 4 cities out of the 5 that were in this circle have been eliminated. And there's not too many teams down there, but what a feed for Ferox here. This could be the way to end their night in style. It's been a rough night. We've got the Sweet Soul interview coming up later on tonight. He's on the move. So is Monty to group back up with Bryn and Rain. Great spot for Ferox. Everyone else, though, it's going to be heavy rotations for this circle.
Yeah, if Ferox picks up at least 10 points here, they can put themselves in that, like, 11th position area. And, you know, from there, it's not too far to grind your way up into top 6, all the way to top 5. It's so close. So if Ferox can have even a decent game here, they can really propel themselves up the leaderboard.
Now, Purple Mood, Sharper Esport, already around close to their vicinity. It's not going to be easy. Finding kills, still going to be quite difficult. I think from this, they've got a nice split, occupying most of the compounds there. As Flood going to get chopped off here. Got a buggy just across the road, as Insight will make the move for Fury. Do have to get a move on, I guess, kind of early on here, because there's not much land. There's quite a few buildings, such as the nature of Miramar, but not much land in play. A lot of water, which is obviously not a common occurrence on Miramar. Gibberit and Samoy making the dash on the motorcycle. Can't wait for the dirt bikes to come in, Edge, hopefully.
I'm very excited for the dirt bikes.
Yeah. Oh, although Samoy and Gibberit might not be, as they are knocked pretty quickly by Rocky Jims and just moments of Purple Mood, who have just quietly had a very, very good night. They were Dead second last edge. It was 23 points from memory, so they've picked up 20 points. They've still got this game to finish. It's been a really good night, and that's why they're out of the bottom 4 into 12.
Yeah, they do lose boss sense very early on by the hands of the young Flood. So Fury capitalizing on that one. Fury actually has themselves a decent position because you would assume that this circle comes away from the water. It isn't land ratio next circle, but the following. But generally, PUBG likes to get rid of water if it can.
Yeah.
So all of your teams on the sort of the more northwestern side should be pretty well set for the rest of the game here, you would think. This should be a free feed for Ferox, but being PUBG, anything can happen. This could even still just hard go towards the south or the east here as well.
Porto Paraíso as well, not a very large dock town. Could go down to Unicorn Cyber at the beach. Although you brought it up, even though Phase 4 is the circle that has the water setting, PUBG tends to just like to push away from it anyway. Phase 3 usually does the job for Phase 4 to a degree. It's almost like the hidden setting. It's not quite there, but feels like it is. 5 more seconds. It's Phase 3. Well, Game 4 of the night, our final night, throw up a doozy. Yes, it does.
This is spicy. It does. This is what we want.
Well, Ferox are in a great spot, technically, but they're going to have a tough ask here for Phase 3 and then potentially Phase 4 as well, because so many teams will either be trying to go past them or into them or around them. They are going to be in the hotspot area. Buriram very much at Porto Paraíso. Division X as well. Decent spot on the beach. And Unicorn not too bad either. Every team not in the circle right now. Where do they go, Edge?
I think they just drive until they find something and stop. And whether you're fighting or whether you're hiding, I think that's your play. If I'm Ferox here, though, I'm definitely grouping up because there's too much of a risk of getting breached by literally 8 teams right now.
Yeah.
It's just way too much of a risk.
What a circle, though, to finish off the night. It's, of course, our final game tonight for PCS3 APAC, the halfway mark of the season. 12 out of 24 games as Gypsy Danger, just trying to find the kill there. Still so many teams that have to make their way in, which is why we're seeing so many teams just driving through here on the main road. I think Waiki Kamukau spun out. He's riding backwards at the moment. He's literally reversing. Flood, Road, and Insight have all continued on in a pretty decent fashion. There's a pick and code. Flood has sent it off the road. He's flipped it. It's landed nicely, though. Fergus for Division X Gaming does spot Insight. Ronan's taking a beating as well. Niles run out of ammo, though, for Division X, and somehow Fury have made it alive, except for Cal.
And potentially Ronan, it's looking like, as he pulls up towards Unicorn Cyber and gets taken out. So it's all left up to little old Insight now. He does have a little bit of an area on the beach, but that will be all. They all went their separate ways, and it's definitely not worked out in their favor. But we still have, even still, like 6 teams left to make it into the circle now. Ferox, surprisingly enough, hasn't been breached. But it's just going to get so congested when the rest of these teams try and make their way in, as we're watching LG Divine.
Phase 4 is going to go right on top of Sharper and Ferox, so they're in great positions. Buriram's not far from that spot. LG Divine coming in quite late. We recall back, they've only got the 3 players after losing one very early on. They've just lost another one, actually. Jun knocked by Jukesy. Insight does find a kill. Unfortunately for Fury, down to just 1 player remaining. They have got at least 3 kills. It's something. It's a small amount of kills. Does bring the gap to 20 points. And, well, it's not like JN and Levi's, the duo for LG Divine, are going to be able to go on and get a hefty amount of points. At best, a couple kills. As we do get Phase 4, should go on to Sharper and Ferox, and does. In fact, there's still even a bit of the water in over at the beachfront next to Division X, Cerberus, and Fury. Of course, inside the solo. Switzel with a knockdown onto Jukesy. And this is where Ferox need to find kills, though. Obviously, it's a bit difficult when you're sitting inside of this compound. It's risky. There's so many teams around your area. It's Miramar. You could be seen from anywhere. But really, 0 kills at this point. Got to find some. Got to get on the board.
Yeah, it looks like they might. Never mind. They don't get the bleed out onto Jukesy there as Jayend will steal that one away with the grenade. So a good point gain there from LG Divine. But as you were saying, Ferox really does need everything they can get right now. They've got the compound, but they just need some kills.
Oh, no.
That's not good either. That's good night for Insight. Ferox having a reasonably decent night tonight. They would have liked to have a better one going into this last game, but 3 out of 4 isn't bad odds.
Great play for Cerberus, who need every point they can get, wiping out Fury, who falls short at 98 points. Not quite cracking triple digits this weekend. Sophia close to Levi's of LG Divine. Battle Arena Elites down to 1. VTR down to 1. Magic Esports down to 1 as well. And obviously, as we've seen, LG Divine down to 2. So a lot of teams wounded, despite the fact that we've got 15 teams alive. There's only 47 players, 17 minutes in. It has slowed down here for Phase 4, just sort of boiling for what's going to be a very pressure cooker situation for Phases 5 and 6. Genfos, pretty good position, but the solo for VTR. What can he achieve from here on out? Potentially some placement points if all goes right. JN did find a kill for LG Divine, so they did find 1 kill point. There's a second from JN. Does get Sophia of Battle Arena Elite, and that's also a competitor wiped out early on. Gypsy Danger from the top of the roof, just spotting Nordra from Buriram United. Doesn't take the shot, not just yet. The rest are from the future just behind, crossing the road now. He's kind of just like the Overwatch, watching and sending in the comms. Well, this is, you don't see this every day.
No, but it's a nice addition actually having the ramps there. It's a little bit of extra playable terrain that you can use, a little bit of hard cover, and it's nice to see that bit of verticality coming out and being able to be used here. But from the future, do get 1 player knocked. They will be able to get the revive up, and it's just whether they can really capitalize and pick up anything onto Buriram here.
Mipin Zuzu, what can he find? Buriram. You mentioned it before that when LG Divine don't have the best of games so far for PCS3 APAC, it's one of either Fury or Buriram that do capitalize. In this case, Buriram have got 4 players up. No points gained yet. But, or at best, I think actually they've gained 1, but that's all it is so far. For Fury, they did get the 3 kills. LG Divine have been able to counter with 2 kills of their own. They're still alive. They're close by to Ferox, who still have a bit of a split. This could go horribly wrong for Ferox if Levi's is able to get in and help out Jayend at this position. 8 seconds. Does Phase 5 continue to head to Ferox, which would certainly be a blessing for Levi's and Jayend, buying them so much time. And it does. LG Divine still in the circle. Ferox still in, but it's Sharper Esports who are the biggest recipients here for Phase 5 Edge.
Yeah, Ferox are actually grouping up now to try and clean out the rest of LG Divine. They don't want to lose 2 players in a 2v2 fight. They want to make it a 4v2 here potentially, as we see Daytrade starting their fight with a 2v2 onto the Purple Mood players. Ferox starting to put the pressure on towards Levi's. They have no idea that Jayend is behind them in the warehouse. Rain spots him out. Jayend gets a nice tag. Levi's still playing it very patiently. They've almost forgotten that there could be another player close by as Levi's picks up Bryn there, and that is worst case scenario for Ferox. They can't let him get another one here. Jayend cannot come out here as well. Jayend picks up one onto Sweet Soul. This is almost all over for Ferox. This is not how it was meant to go. Rain needs to pick up this kill, but isn't able to as Levi's pick it up. It's all left up to Monty now, and Monty's running over to help his team.
LG Divine are out. Fortunately for Ferox, just moments. Purple Mood, they were getting involved. So LG Divine eliminated. I think the revives will take place for Ferox. So only 1 kill gained there for LG Divine. 121 points. That's where they sit so far tonight. Of course, we are back tomorrow night. Edie has been the front man for Buriram so far. The PCS3, they're going to have to count on him again as they are getting surrounded by Hydra Gaming. Unicorn eliminated by Angel Alliance. The Philippines team raging home on Miramar, where they are so strong. Ferox got the revives. They only lost 1 player throughout all of that. I don't actually know if they got any of the kills. as From the Future starts to creep up. Of course, all of this still inside of the circle. Canaxi got Rabbit. You can see it in the kill feed. So that has just kicked off between Buriram and Hydra Gaming. Buriram so far on top there. And a knock onto Sweet Soul. And that's another knock. So he's bleeding out profusely. Triple X with the kill from the Future.
Yeah, I really don't believe that Ferox has picked up any of the kills onto LG Divine, as I believe they were still on the 36 at the start of this game. So from their feed, this really hasn't been too favorable, especially losing Sweet Soul from Triple X there. This hasn't been good, and From the Future has such a strong hold on their position, as we see Division X Long K clean up the last two players of Hydra Gaming. They will have a little bit more control now. All they have to worry about is Buriram in that petrol station. Buriram playing the late game here, waiting until everyone's forced in, and then they strike.
10 teams, 30 alive. Final game of the night. Buriram at this petrol station don't have to worry too much in terms of this phase 6 circle. They can move up quite freely. It's more so the southwest part. We got a lot of teams close by. Genforce getting pushed and aggressed by Angel Alliance. He found 2 kills as a solo. Unfortunately, though, he couldn't get VTR into the top 8 for some placement points. Nan's going to be eliminated by Subang of Cerberus. And despite Angel Alliance's big turnaround on Miramar, they are now down to just 2 players, just short of the top 8 as well. They might get eliminated here by Cerberus. Rain on the move. Throughout all of that, Ferox haven't found a single kill. Staggering. Despite being in like 2 or 3 fights, having the circle, and now it's Rain and Monty just navigating these wheat fields. Trying to duck and move and get into this next circle. Mad Dog's been knocked down and finished by Venotica. There's 1 left. It's Evil Patrick. 5 kills for Day Trade. One of their better performances so far for PCS3 APAC as Hisaki mated by Venotica. Patrick can't win that one. Venotika's on a tear right now. He's got 3. Hisaki will be eliminated very, very shortly as he bleeds out. Venotica, I think, might be the recipient of that kill as well. As Sololzi and Subang are the last 2 for Cerberus. It's Day Trade coming out on top there.
Yeah, Day Trade have been doing a little bit of work here. They've still got all 4 players up, so they should be able to push on over to the rest of Cerberus here, and hopefully for them clean up the last 2 remaining players. But they do have a little bit of a roadblock in Division X, just on the edges. Looks like Team Ferox is about to be cleared out by Sharper. Monty will get a trade onto Kim Silva, but I don't think he's going to be able to get too much more here. He's not in the zone. He needs to push in towards the 4 players who are very well entrenched in their compound at the moment. And it just doesn't look like Ferox's night tonight.
Unfortunately not, considering night number 2 was tremendous, where they picked up 29 points. Hasn't been the case tonight. We'll hear a bit from Sweet Soul as to maybe what went wrong tonight, as they do bow out with the single placement point. 22 alive, 7 teams, 24.5 minutes gone for our final game of the night. Buriram up to 98 points. They haven't really set this game alight, but Edge, as we get towards the end of this game, this is where they can do the work, start to clean up, win these fights, and they can finish this game with a 10 or a 12 kill win, and that would put them right up into that top spot.
Yeah, I really think that probably this circle now that we're about to see, as soon as this starts closing, that's when Buriram comes on alive. They start to wrap the edge, and it looks like they're starting to go towards the west now. Once they push that west, they'll start cleaning out teams. They'll look at From the Future first, clean out From the Future, and then continue their strength from strength to strength here. And that's playing on the edge, and we've seen it time and time again how strong they are on the edge plays.
This is where they get to show us to their full potential, though. 99 points. They jump up into Zakin over Fury. Of course, Sharper Esports still in this match with 4 players up. They're a big threat. They're looking to potentially end the night around the same position as Fury. From the Future, though, we're certainly going to be up against it. And I'm not sure if going down that cliff was the right play. Somehow, though, Hexagon wins it with a barrel. That's one fight you would have expected Edie to win, considering how he's been playing throughout PCS3 APAC. One goes down, one takes his place, though. They get the smokes out, and Order looking to hold. He cops a large chunk of damage. Triple X from above, from the future, have just torn right through Buriram United. 2 members gone, 2 remain. Canaxi and God Meow. Canaxi does get 1 knock, but the damage has been done. And it goes back to that old trope edge that we saw in PCS2 when LG Divine don't get much. Their competitors haven't been able to punish them. And it's happened here again. Despite Canaxi getting 2 knocks, he is going to be knocked himself by Triple X. God Meow outside of the circle. And Buriram, for all of their position, for all of their play, and for all of the talk about sweeping the edge of circle, they have capitulated here in the final match of the night.
Yeah, I was expecting so much more there from Buriram, and it doesn't look like God Meow's going to be able to get anything as well, as he's slowly getting closed in by Long K. We do have a battle of the Titans right now, Long K being a very strong player for Division X in the past. He starts up with that headshot and will clean up very quickly. So Buriram goes out in 4th place. They do get some placements that will put them back into that 2nd place, 20 points away from LG Divine, but we've still got Sharper and Division X. Sharper and Division X really needing points right now, trying to get their way back towards that top 3. Sharper kind of close. Division a little bit further behind, and then from the future, way down, but they'll need this as well.
Big opportunity for Division X Gaming. At one point, they were down in 9th. They were sliding down the leaderboard, but to their credit, they've bounced back quickly. They haven't really needed much time between the games as well to rejig things and turn their night around. 4 up, good position, very winnable game. Sharper Esport, 3 players, but now they in a bad position because they're getting pressured from the north and the south, from the future and Division X.
Sharper does have a pretty nice high ground here, and they know that from the future's close by. And that's why you see Kim Siva playing that prone spot, waiting from the future to sort of slip up a little bit as soon as they start fighting like they are now. That might be Sharper's time to move up. We have Zuzu waiting, but gets cleaned up by Kim Siva. So it's 2 players left now from the future. Division X with 10 kills. Pushing in on the opposite end as Long K will pick up Hexagon, and Triple X will get taken down by Neil. So Sharper and Division X now in the top 2 fights. We've got a 3v4, and it's looking really good for Division X. They're only 10 points behind Sharper now.
21 points for Sharper, 81 for Division X. Cue the music. Cue the finale for tonight. 3 versus 4. Vietnam versus Thailand. Obviously for Sharper Esports, there's a lot on the line here. You get these 4 kills, you get this top spot, and you're looking at taking 3rd spot away from Fury. Otherwise, you lose this, and it's Division X who are going to be right hot on their heels for that 4th spot as well. Regardless, whatever happens here, this top 4, I should say actually this top 5, very much solidifying. Bay did get pushed out. Fergus will get the opening knock onto Kim Siva. It's a big one because Kim Siva is usually the one that finds the knocks and finds those entry frags for Sharper Esport. It's going to make it very, very difficult for Maximus and Tanoi now in a 2 versus 4. They need to get 1. They should get 2 thanks to Tanoi. Onto Neil and Long K. Makes it a 2 versus 2. Fergus does get Tanoi though quickly right back. 2 versus 1. Maximus probably doesn't sense he can go for the revive. The Blues, of course, moving as well. If he had to go for it, he had to have done it quickly. Fergus can go for the revive. He knows he's got IQ 500 to cover. In fact, Maximus is going to go for it as well. This will make it a 2 versus 3 from here on out. IQ 500 has been watching and watching closely. He pushes up. He gets aggressive. Could that be his downfall? Spots 1. Doesn't know where the second one is, though, and is expecting that by this point, he's up and about. Got the first aid kit off as well. Maximus, though, just gets sat down so quickly. Second one goes down too. And it's a big win for Division X Gaming. 15 kills. 25 points to close out the night. They have rocketed from about 10th position into the top 5, not quite enough to overtake Sharper Esports, but 3 points behind them isn't so bad, and they're 16 points above Battle Arena Elites. A bit of a gap has certainly formed there for the top 5.
Yeah, that was a big showing from Division X Gaming there. They started off in a boat. They boated all the way around to the port, docked in, and just played their edge from there. Absolutely monstrous performance from Division X. And Sharper as well. Sharper did such a solid job to just stay alive. They had 3-man for so long, picked up a couple of kills, kept on working forward, and it was just a solid top 2.
Definitely shows what Division X Gaming are capable of. They've done it before in the past. They've done it again here as well in this particular match. It keeps them in the race. And the race is certainly heating up here. 12 out of 24 games now have been completed. And we've got ourselves, I would consider, 6 very confident contenders. Outside of the top 6, I do find it difficult. Maybe Cerberus could turn their fortunes around. But the top 6 can all very much still walk away with PCS3 APAC. It's, of course, still the team to beat those LG Divine. Purple Mood don't want to start here as they got 2 members of Victim Rise. And what a start to the game it was, Edge, because it was very chaotic.
It absolutely was, but if I'm Purple Mood, I'm pretty happy with the performance tonight. They've put themselves into a mid-of-the-pack contenders position from being second to last. So for Purple Mood, they've done their job for tonight. They can keep pushing the rest of the nights, and they know that they've got that gap closed now.
10 points gained in the last 3 matches for LG Divine, yet they still hold a 20 and a 23-point gap over second and third. I guess it's just a testament, though, more so than anything, to the gap that they actually once had, which was around 40 points, and I think even 43 to third place for that matter. So do you think that the teams like Miramar, like Fury, did enough in those 3 games to essentially punish LG Divine and reduce that gap?
I don't know about punish. I think from the start of the night they closed it by like 10 points. So, you know, you keep that up. Divine can obviously still have good games here. They can still pick up wins, no worries. But for the likes of Fury and Miramar, when they have their on games, they just look absolutely on fire. Like, we've seen one sort of double-digit kill game for Divine, but for the likes of Miramar and Fury, they've had multiple. So they've definitely got the firepower to really bring this back in.
Of course, there's a few more, though, in terms of competitors. Not too far behind. Sharper Esports, Division X. Bay just falling away a little bit, but they're there and we know what they're capable of. What's your thoughts on Sharper and Division X? How much further can those 2 teams respectively take it in terms of, I guess, upsetting this top 3 balance?
I think Sharper is a team that I would put, from what I've seen so far, above Division X. I feel like Division X been a little bit too inconsistent. From what I've seen of Division X, they're really just riding like 1 or 2 good performances and then some really, really bad ones. So they need to get their averages up, and if they can do that, I have no doubt that they could be like a consistent top 5 contender amongst the rest. But I feel like Sharper is the more consistent, stronger team at the moment.
25 points. That's the most points that a team has been able to get so far for PCS3 APAC in one game. Goes to show the testament of their strength. When they can show their best, they can definitely compete with anyone. But as you said, inconsistency has probably been their downfall, and at times they can have some games where they don't really get much.
Yeah, and it's been a few too many times, I think, where they haven't got much at all. But something I would like to point out, that Unicorn Cyber has doubled their points in one night.
Yeah.
From what they had done over the 2 nights last week. So stonks are rising for Unicorn Cyber.
They certainly are, and it's good to see. Obviously, you never really want to see a team sort of getting beaten down the bottom. So, you know, to their credit, 3rd, 6th, 2 kills, 2 kills, 2 kills. Much, much better night from them. They looked like a team competing and looking like they belonged here, more so than, I guess, the first 2 nights where they were getting battered and bruised and pushed around. You know, Purple Mood is another team as well who was in that second last position starting tonight, and now they've been able to get some points and really get into the thick of things. Look, it's a really even lobby, all things considered. Obviously, Ferox didn't quite kick on tonight, which is a bit disappointing, but Hydra Gaming were doing really well. They dropped a little bit tonight. Unfortunately, we actually gave them a bit of a hype up to start tonight, and then they only picked up 3 points for the whole night, Hydra Gaming, so they've dropped as well. So you've got some teams that unfortunately have dropped a bit tonight, but then the other teams that did well were the ones that didn't quite do as well last weekend. Angel Alliance, they had a good finish as well on Miramar. So another team with their own little storyline where it's not quite going well on Erangel, but it's going great on Miramar. From the future, good end to the night for them. So there's a lot of, I would probably say every single team has had a good night, whether it's day 1, day 2, or day 3 now. So we've seen a bit of everything from everyone, which is really nice to see in this lobby. And it goes to show, I think by the end now here for 2020, this APAC region is as strong as it's ever been.
Yeah, and I think that's what you'll find is every competition where the teams are practicing against each other, it'll just get better and better until there's a point where potentially we could have, 10 top teams that on any given day a different team can win. So it'll be great for competition, it's great for the viewer, and it's just, I think it's just great for the overall esport.
Yeah. Well, the final game, of course, match 12, top 5 damage. Kim Siver continues to be a top player for Sharper Esport, but no surprise to see Division X Gaming really rounding out the top 5 there. Fergus, Long K, IQ 500, always good signs when you're spreading the damage loads more so than just through one player, and they're all getting really high numbers too. So overall, just signifies how strong a game Division X had.
Yeah, definitely did. And we see the damage as well. They maybe didn't have the. Is this for the full day?
Well, this is for day 3 as a whole. Sharper Esport. Not a surprise. They had a obviously tremendous day 3 compared to some of their earlier matches. Second, 7th, 5th, kills 8-4, 8-4. So they round out most of that. Sophia, though, continues to have an amazing PCS3 too. So that was the damage stats overall for day number 3, which as we sort of close the day off now, Edge, final thoughts, I guess. We go around the table here. I'd probably just say I'm very excited with where we're heading tomorrow night. The points gap isn't so big. LG Divine, obviously for the Pick'em faithful, it's a pretty decent gap. I still think that they're probably favorites, but it's not going to be as clear cut. And we're going to need to see them find the gear that they had on day 1 and day 2. They need to bring that back if they're going to be able to go on and win it. I'm excited for Biram, Fury, Sharper, and Division X. I think we've got some good competitors there. Edge, I want your final thoughts before we close off.
Yeah, I'm much the same. I think as a lover of PUBG Esports, I'm happy that it's not such a one-horse race, right? And not that last PCS2 was, but, at the middle point, it was kind of all written off. Yeah. So from this point, I'm happy that it's so close. I'm happy that there's so many teams in it, that anyone can win on any given day. And it just makes the overall a lot more exciting, and I'm excited for more APAC.
I certainly am as well. I'm excited for tomorrow night. That's when we will be back, of course, for PCS3 APAC. In the meantime, in a few hours' time on this channel, will be PCS3 Europe, which for you Pick'em fans, you might have a chance to get some more codes. But until tomorrow night, which of course will be the same time, we'll see you then.